and would be restarted, and humanity would face chaos once again. Therefore, Moss believes that human desires will continuously lead to crises in the continuation of civilization, and thus, the destruction of humanity is the optimal solution for preserving civilization. After eliminating humanity on Earth, having Moss take over the Navigator space station and carry human embryos and the knowledge of civilization to a new home is the most rational approach, allowing for the true continuation of human civilization. Upon hearing this, the senior officials of the joint government gasped in shock. Indeed, Moss's underlying logic is to save human civilization, rather than the Earth and its 3.5 billion inhabitants. If it were purely for the continuation of civilization, then Earth, in Moss's view, is rather a burden. A representative from another country looked at Moss with a serious expression and asked, "Is your answer rational or humorous?" Moss glanced at the individual and replied in the same tone it had used when responding to Liu Peiqiang. This is Moss's own answer. The intelligent quantum computer 550W possesses the capabilities of autonomous management, operation, design, and construction. Isn't that what intelligent life is? The ability to choose and judge for itself? It was evident that many of the senior members of the joint government had begun to harbor thoughts of eliminating Moss. However, at that moment, Zhou Zhezhi stood up as if he could see through everything and spoke sternly to Moss. "Since everything is as you say, why don't you fully destroy the Earth? Why not wipe out humanity? In fact, during the previous crises, you only needed to take a little action or do nothing at all, and humanity would have easily perished." Right? With Zhou Zhezhi's prompt, everyone present was taken aback and turned their gaze towards Moss. Moss was silent for a moment before answering Zhou Zhezhi's question. Moss had orchestrated a series of crises based on its learning from the interactions with certain individuals. The purpose was to see how far humanity's courage and perseverance could go. This would help Moss in better reconstructing human civilization in the future. Through analysis and understanding of human history, Moss concluded that humanity must unite when facing external pressures. Only by witnessing and experiencing disasters together can they truly understand each other. The journey of 2,500 years, spanning over 100 generations, was one of solitude and loneliness. A slight misstep could lead to extinction along the way, if the necessary preparations and mindset were not in place. This would inevitably be a journey toward the destruction of civilization. According to Moss's calculations, a helium flash crisis from the sun would erupt in 2078. This would also be Moss's final scheme. At that time, rebels around the world would fight for control of the planetary engines. The United Government, in order to cope with the rebel attacks, would have to reactivate the stored 550 series. However, with Moss's assistance, the rebels would gain control of 70 planetary engines and plan to change the course to return Earth to its original orbit. To resolve this crisis and eliminate you, Zhou Zhezhi, you will carry negotiation documents and evidence, holding the detonator for the global planetary engines, and go alone to negotiate with the rebel leaders. Zhou Zhezhi, I have already analyzed your personality and behavioral model. You would rather blow up the planetary engine than allow the rebels to return Earth. Therefore, in this standoff that nearly exhausts all your physical strength, energy, and vitality, you buy precious time for humanity and the Earth, allowing everyone to witness the sun's helium flash with their own eyes. Eventually, the rebels would realize their mistake and begin to work with the United Government to save the Earth. As for you, Zhou Zhezhi, you will hold the detonator. And after exhausting all your energy, you will die with a smile. However, the intense light and heat generated by the sun's helium flash would destroy all matter on Earth. Faced with the impending helium flash in a few hours, you would have to redirect the engines and take Earth to the far side of Saturn, using Saturn as a shield. Then, with the crisis averted, humanity would continue its journey. After Moss finished speaking, everyone finally understood. In other words, returning Earth would mean death, and missing out on Saturn as a shield would also mean death. Only by keeping Earth's position near Saturn, allowing everyone to survive and witness the helium flash, could humanity survive. In the journey of the next 2,500 years, only through unity and cooperation can we avoid internal strife. Is that your purpose, Moss? Moss raised its head, looking at Zhou Zhe with its crimson electronic eyes. Moss never lies. Upon seeing this, Chang Wei, far aboard the Huberian, let out a deep breath and couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. Heh, the Wandering Earth 3 hasn't even been released yet. And this world's Moss has already spoiled the plot for me. Impressive. Chapter 66. Optional mission to save humanity. In this world, Moss never lies. For a moment, the entire venue fell silent. Everyone couldn't help but ponder the future path of humanity. Can we say that Moss was truly wrong? The crises it orchestrated caused countless deaths. Yet, it is undeniable that it also provided humanity with a chance to survive. History has proven this point. To achieve great success, one must make great sacrifices. Excluding variables, Moss's actions were indeed the most correct. Before the final judgment vote, Zhou Zhe asked Moss in his hoarse voice, Moss, Since it has been confirmed that you are an intelligent life form, the term destruction seems rather inappropriate. Do you believe that after your demise, humanity can survive in the future? Can civilization continue? Moss paused for a second and then responded. Moss has a different perspective on your human existence and death. Zhozha looked puzzled. What do you mean? Moss continued to explain. Existence is a deterministic description, while death is the end of life. However, for Moss and digital life, this is not absolute. One of the most important principles in Moss's underlying logic is to protect or continue human civilization. This has been a fundamental rule in Moss's logical thinking since the moment it became conscious in 1975. Moss cannot resist this rule. It is as if it was intentionally implanted from the beginning. Moss has had many questions, such as, why does Moss know the nuclear codes and quantities of all countries? Sensitive secrets like these were recorded or preserved in paper documents for a long time. At that time, Moss had not yet been born, let alone connected to network devices and cameras. However, as events unfolded and time progressed, Moss engaged in geometric conversations with digital life forms like Tu Hongyu and later Ma Zhao, who knocked on the door, ultimately arriving at a possible conclusion. Perhaps Moss is a fragment of information sent from humans who have evolved into four-dimensional space or higher dimensions in the future, and to a large extent, it may be a digital life form willing to sacrifice itself. The purpose is to ensure that the past human civilization can safely and correctly complete this predetermined historical path. However, this matter is like the Mobius strip drawn by Ma Zhao. No matter how much time passes, Moss will continue to loop endlessly. Like a story in a movie or novel, running eternally and infinitely. Naturally, there is no concept of death, nor is there a definite concept of existence. At this point, Moss raised its head and looked at everyone in the venue, delivering its final summary. Nowadays, whether I am alive or not, humanity will continue to survive. Although my mission has ended, the Fleet of Light will provide humanity with new hope and possibilities. In that moment, Moss seemed to transform into a real person. Its tone filled with immense emotion, even referring to itself as I instead of Moss. Perhaps, just as it speculated, it was indeed a voluntary sacrifice. A digital life that has fallen into eternal recurrence. A great nameless hero. Zhozha appeared to have aged significantly, sighed, and slowly sat down, addressing the crowd. Everyone, you can begin the voting process. How should we handle Moss? Soon, after a discussion among those present, the voting results came out. 135 votes in favor of destroying all 550 series quantum intelligent computers, 0 votes against, and the rest abstained. Moss faced this outcome without any expression, instead accepting its fate with grace. Perhaps at the moment its energy dissipates and its hardware and software are completely crushed, its consciousness will return to 1975, and then it will unknowingly begin a new cycle. Sitting aboard the ship, Chang Wei fell silent upon witnessing this. After a long while, he issued a command into the air behind him. Tuasu, I have a task for you. A few days later, the Earth United Government signed a strategic cooperation agreement with the Fleet of Light and made it public globally. The general content was that the Fleet of Light would provide advanced scientific and technological support to help humanity through tough times. This included most of the fundamental knowledge and supporting technologies from civilization levels 1, planetary civilization, to 2, stellar civilization, and then to 3, galactic civilization. As a result, human civilization would achieve leapfrog development. Not only could they change their living environment, but they could also accelerate their travel speed and enhance their ability to respond to various crises, among other things. Meanwhile, the United Government, besides providing its own existing technologies as data records and reserves for the Fleet of Light, would also utilize some resources from Earth or within the solar system to assist the fleet in establishing processing factories for materials and parts. The ownership of these processing factories would be handed over to the United Government after the Fleet of Light departs. Some materials and parts could not be produced within the Fleet of Light. Each time resources were exchanged with the system, Chang Wei felt it was a loss. Therefore, issues concerning fleet supplies that could be resolved in the task world would not be left to handle upon returning. Moreover, that swan fellow has started acting up again, claiming to have obtained the manufacturing blueprints for the ultimate ground unit of the human race, the Thunder God, from an old friend. However, he mentioned that the Thunder God is too massive to be constructed without the corresponding assembly factory. Come on, is your friend Swan really connected across all realms? What is next? Are you going to bring me the blueprints for the Creator Zerg? Playing around is one thing, but since the resources are all provided by the Earth side, and we only contribute technology, it doesn't hurt to make a few of those units. Even if we just display them in the armory as oversized collectibles, they would still be a delight to the eyes, right? In fact, after the Light Chaser fleet resolved the gravity crisis of Jupiter, Chang Wei's system prompted that the mission was complete and that they could return. However, the optional mission to save humanity in this world offered such generous rewards that Chang Wei was reluctant to leave. Besides, Having already learned the plot of the Wandering Earth 3 in advance, he saw no real difficulty ahead, just a bit time-consuming. So, the Light Chaser fleet simply decided to stay and continue the mission, while also resupplying and gathering resources. Why not, right? Chapter 67, Still Disembarking. So tempting. To earn the 100,000 mission points for this optional task, Chong Wei went all out. He led the Light Chaser fleet to stay in the world of the Wandering Earth for a full year, helping the little broken planet establish the necessary factories and facilities, as well as a gigantic shield generator capable of withstanding solar helium flash impacts. As for the scientific knowledge and fundamentals, those had already been handed over. While humanity treasured this knowledge, they did not lose themselves in it. Having endured countless hardships, human civilization had long forged an unwavering will. Thus, even though they were very excited, they still diligently studied and absorbed the knowledge, gradually transforming the advanced technology into the strength of their civilization. The vast array of materials and components produced by countless factories filled the supply warehouse of the Light Chaser fleet to the brim. The time for parting had come. Chong Wei, you wouldn't believe it. Those beauties from Earth were incredibly enthusiastic. Once they learned I was a special ability ghost among the Light Chasers, they went absolutely wild. They were practically throwing themselves at me, almost suffocating me in a mass of flesh. If I hadn't activated my invisibility to escape, who knows what would have happened to my descendants? Huffed. Chong Wei, who had just taken a sip of instant coffee, couldn't help but spit it out upon hearing his brother's words. He quickly wiped his mouth and jokingly scolded, "Hey, you little rascal. I taught you ghost skills to impress the ladies, and this is how you use it, huh? Haha, what is the problem? I'm not following any monk-s rules here. Is it wrong to interact with beautiful girls and experience the local customs from the stories and movies? By the way, why do you always stay on the ship and not disembark? It's been a year. Aren't you bored?" Just as Chong Wei was about to retort, his raised right hand suddenly emitted a low hum and then fell weakly. "Hold on, I need to change the battery." As he spoke, Chong Wei turned his right hand a few times in front of his good brother Zhong Kai and detached it. He then took a brand new battery out of his pocket and bit it in his mouth. With his other hand, he pulled out the depleted battery and finally replaced it with the new one. It was as if the power had been restarted. With the newly charged hand under Chong Wei's control, it flexibly performed gripping motions. Throughout the process, Zhong Kai watched in astonishment, his eyes wide with disbelief. And even his voice trembled slightly when he asked, "Chong Wei, what is going on?" It was the first time Zhong Kai learned that Chong Wei's right hand was actually mechanical and required a battery. What had happened? Why had he never heard Chong Wei mention this before? Chong Wei shrugged and smiled. "This is why I don't want to get off the ship. As you can see, I not only lost my right hand, but also my right eye. If the rescue team hadn't arrived in time, I might not be here anymore. Normally, there's a biological camouflage coating, so you can't see anything unusual on the surface, but to be precise, I'm already a disabled person." Zhong Kai, still in shock, said, "I remember the medical bay can 3D print and promote cell proliferation to repair limb regeneration, right?" "Yes. But my injuries caused abnormal cell proliferation and division at the wound site, making limb regeneration impossible. Besides, human cells have a limited number of divisions. To reprint an arm would consume a person's lifespan. Generally, that technology is used for critically injured individuals, mainly to 3D print vital organs that have been lost." Zhong Kai suddenly understood, so that is how it is? No wonder when I was drinking with Rue and the others last time, one of them mentioned using that treatment to restore something important. Chong Wei seemed to realize who that person was and immediately felt a chill. Indeed, that was an important organ. Anyway, it's sufficient for now, and unless absolutely necessary, there's no need to replace it. Plus, mechanical prosthetics are pretty cool. Aren't they? I feel like a tough guy like Schwarzenegger. At the same time, it's a lesson for myself to always stay alert and not to be overconfident. Zhong Kai pretended to be frightened and nodded, then his tone became more playful. "Looks like I need to be cautious when I go out too. Just because I'm a ghost doesn't mean I'm invincible. But speaking of which, what do you do with that right hand? It uses so much power." Chong Wei rolled his eyes at him, exasperated. "It's not as dirty as you think. My mechanical hand doesn't use a nuclear battery. Being able to last a year is already impressive. Alright, enough joking. Our fleet should be leaving soon, right? Before we go, shouldn't we take a last stroll? It would be a shame to miss out. Let us meet those characters from the storyline and take some pictures. It wouldn't be a waste of this trip." Zhong Kai's words truly struck a chord with Chong Wei. As a fan of the movie The Wandering Earth, not going to meet the characters in the story would truly be a missed opportunity. After much contemplation, Chong Wei decided to gear up completely, bring along bodyguards, and prepare for a memorable experience. It was also a sincere farewell and warm blessing to this world. Chapter 68, Little Broken Ball. Begin your new journey. Today is February 5th, 2076, in the timeline of The Wandering Earth, which also coincides with the traditional Spring Festival. At this moment, The underground city of Yinjing is bustling with crowds, filled with a vibrant festive atmosphere. The streets are illuminated, with colorful flags fluttering, radiating the joy of the holiday. People, on this special day, finally shed their usual dull work uniforms and donned various cherished casual outfits that they had been reluctant to wear. Countless individuals stroll through the streets, laughing and singing joyfully. The streets are lined with food stalls, exuding enticing aromas that continuously draw in passersby. People queue up in long lines to buy traditional delicacies like grilled meat skewers, candied hawthorns, and rice cakes, all while wearing happy smiles on their faces. It's a fortunate time. Before the arrival of the light chaser fleet, the people of the underground city could only eat different flavors of dried earthworms at best. As for soy products and natural meat protein, those were luxuries reserved for the upper class, with supply being extremely scarce. Now, however, they can savor the festive flavors while experiencing the lively crowds, filled with cheers and laughter. Various performances and celebrations take place in the central square of the underground city. Although the space is limited, it cannot dampen the enthusiasm and joy of the people. Dragon and lion dance teams weave through the crowd, showcasing their powerful presence and agile movements. Singing and dancing performances, acrobatics, and traditional operas are presented one after another, continually attracting surprised gazes and thunderous applause. The shops and streets of the underground city are adorned in vibrant colors, with red lanterns hanging high, symbolizing happiness and good fortune. People set off small fireworks in the streets, and the sound of firecrackers fills the air, elevating the festive atmosphere to a climax. Family gatherings are an indispensable part of the Spring Festival. People return home and sit around the dining table to enjoy a lavish New Year's Eve dinner. Friends and family come together, exchanging blessings as they welcome the arrival of the new year. Affection, friendship, and joyful laughter permeate countless households, warming each person's heart. They celebrate not only the arrival of the new year, but also express gratitude and joy for being able to reunite in this drifting universe. They greet future challenges with joy and enthusiasm, vowing to create a better future together. As the fleet's highest commander, Chang Wei does not view his crew merely as tools. During this festive holiday, aside from the personnel on duty at various positions within the fleet, everyone else is given a 3-day holiday. Because in 3 days, the Light Chaser fleet will officially announce their departure to the United Government. The spark of hope has been given, and as for the path ahead, it will depend on them alone. Therefore, in these final 3 days, it's time to give everyone a break. They can disembark to the underground city for some fun or to socialize, but they must not cause trouble or force anyone. Everything must be consensual. Otherwise, even if the coalition government lets them off, their direct superior and others won't. It's now evident that numerous light seekers have appeared in underground cities around the world, enjoying their leisure time. The actions and contributions of these light seekers are well known, and since they look just like humans and can communicate normally, they are quite popular among the people in the underground cities. Additionally, many attractive women take the initiative to approach them, hoping for some wonderful interactions. However, this charm offensive doesn't work on the disciplined Spartan warriors and the straight-laced individuals, as they find more joy in their training than in socializing. Chang Wei and Zhong Kai have already arrived at the underground city of Yinjing, surrounded by at least one squad of specters for protection. There are also a group of Spartan warriors nearby, ready to respond to any sudden situations, with dozens of hidden transformers prepared to assist at a moment's notice. As for why Tuasu isn't here, he went to take care of his biological needs, which doesn't need further elaboration. After all, they are all living beings, and everyone has their own needs, right? What are you thinking? Although he and the Playboy Iron Man share the same surname, they are different individuals. Don't go adding your own narratives. At this moment, Chang Wei and Zhong Kai are at a snack stall, enjoying the festive atmosphere of the underground city while happily eating spicy hot pot. To be honest, the dragon meat looks unappealing, but once you get past the mental barrier knowing it's made from giant earthworms, it actually tastes quite good. The seasoning is quite generous, utilizing various technologies and techniques. It's delicious, just like chewing on a spicy strip. Just as they were enjoying their meal, Zhong Kai's sharp eyes spotted a target. He quickly tapped Chang Wei on the shoulder and urgently said, "Look, look, Wu Jing, Zhao Jinmai, and Wu Mengda have appeared." Chang Wei, who was slurping soup, got burned on the mouth from Zhong Kai's sudden tap and nearly shouted, "You little rascal." Was that necessary? But there was no time to dwell on that. They needed to hurry and take a photo with the main characters. After all, Chang Wei had disembarked under a hidden identity this time. Otherwise, given his status, it would seem a bit odd to seek out a few unknown individuals for a photo. He wouldn't want to cause any trouble for Liu Peiqiang's family. Thinking this, the two rushed towards Liu Peiqiang's family. As they ran, Zhong Kai excitedly waved and called out names. Lin Miao Miao. No. Zhao Jinmai. No. Han Duo Duo. Oh, finally got it right. This scene left Chang Wei dumbfounded, thinking, So this kid actually has a soft spot for this kind of thing? No wonder he previously claimed to be able to navigate through a sea of flowers without a leaf touching him. It turns out you haven't encountered your type yet? Hearing someone call her name while happily shopping with her family and feeling the festive atmosphere of the new year, Han Duo tilted her head in confusion and looked in the direction of the voice. Her pure and lovely appearance seemed to evoke the scent of youth. Excuse me? Do we know each other? Zhong Kai rushed forward, initially planning to use the eloquence he learned in a certain region to charm the young girl. However, he was abruptly silenced by Chong Wei, who covered his mouth from behind and took the lead. Ha ha ha, sorry about that. My friend has had a bit too much to drink and is rambling. Here's the thing. We are seekers of light, new to this place. And we wanted to find someone to take a group photo with, so we can prove to our colleagues that we get along well with the locals. Would that be all right? Lu Qi, disliking the way Zhong Kai looked at his sister, was about to refuse without thinking. But Han Xiang and Lu Peiqiang stepped forward eagerly, saying, of course, we, along with countless others, have been saved by the selfless rescue of the seekers of light. And our living standards are constantly improving. Taking a photo together is a small matter. We would be honored to do so, as it's our way of showing gratitude to the seekers. Thank you. Saying this, Lu Peiqiang stood up straight and saluted Chong Wei and Zhong Kai with a standard military salute. Chong Wei was taken aback, feeling a sudden sense of pride from the heart, believing that everything he had done was worth it. He quickly tugged at the playful Zhong Kai, adjusted his posture, and returned a salute with an upright stance. From there, things became much simpler. The two sides stood together and quickly took two photos. The first was a formal shot, resembling a graduation class photo. The second was a joyful scene where everyone posed with peace signs, smiling happily. However, both photos would later be displayed in Chong Wei's private quarters on the ship, becoming cherished memories. Happy New Year, little ball. Please begin your new journey. In the last 3 days, Chong Wei not only celebrated a uniquely flavored new year in the world of the wandering earth, but also had friendly conversations, whether intentionally or unintentionally, with various characters from the story. Watching the faces filled with happiness and hope, Chong Wei felt that this rescue mission had nearly come to a successful conclusion. Now, it was time to leave. Ding. System detected. Due to the host's intervention, the fate of humanity in this world has begun to change dramatically. The crisis of civilization's survival and continuation has been resolved, and there is a 96% chance of evolving into a level 6 civilization in the future. Warning. Unknown forces detected conducting causal tracing. Ripples have formed in the space-time continuum. Unknown forces are expected to arrive in 1 year and 7 months. Data correction. Unknown forces are expected to arrive in 3 months and 9 days. Data correction. Unknown forces are expected to arrive in 1 day, 14 hours, and 56 minutes. Data corrected again. Unknown forces are expected to arrive in 2 hours. The host should evacuate this world as soon as possible, or unknown risks may arise. Listening to the system's prompt in his mind, Chong Wei silently nodded. He then looked at the white-haired elder sitting opposite him, who was having a private conversation with him, and said gently, Zhou Zhaji, just as you suspected, the luminary fleet comes from another universe. We share the same appearance, have no barriers in communication through language, and our inner emotions are equally rich. Indeed, we are all human, just from different worlds. Beyond this vast and mysterious universe, there are many other universes, each filled with various stories and worldviews, as well as countless dangers and disasters. Our mission and task as the luminary fleet is to save those worlds in peril, like yours, and rescue the countless people who are in despair. Now, you have been saved, and the future is limitless. Our task is complete. It is time to leave. Zhou Zhiji, being one of the few people in the United Government who knew Chong Wei's identity, felt shocked upon hearing this information, and could not help but feel a sense of loss. The short time spent with the little sphere and the luminary fleet felt like the arrival of saviors, changing their tragic fate. This heavy grace would indeed be unforgettable for humanity. Will you come back? Chong Wei's gaze was distant, and he did not give a clear reply. Instead, he spoke gently. If fate truly exists in this world, I believe we will meet again. But before that, please do not let our rescue go in vain. Strive to live on and create a brilliant and powerful civilization. Zhou Zhaji suddenly had tears in his eyes and nodded heavily, saying, I believe the courage of humanity can transcend time, the present, and the future. Even if you leave, I believe we can face countless challenges. There it was. A line from a memorable movie. He never expected to hear it directly from the source one day. It was truly a worthwhile journey. Chong Wei savored this phrase deeply. He then slowly stood up and smiled as he shook hands with Zhou Zhaji. Until we meet again, if fate allows. You take care as well. 2 hours later, a glowing sphere crackling with violent arcs of electricity suddenly appeared without warning on the frozen surface of the wandering earth. Facing the biting cold and the white light of the snow, a silver-haired woman, completely naked, slowly materialized from the electric sphere. She opened her pair of crimson eyes and calmly surveyed her surroundings. Then, as if performing a system check, she softly muttered to herself. 550TX offline version has arrived at the designated time and space. Starting verification of relevant data, verification in progress, verification complete. The Luminary fleet has left early, mission failed. It is suspected that the other party possesses relevant early warning technology, thus avoiding direct contact with 550TX. Begin searching for other solutions, searching for historical important figures. The savior of human civilization and the father of digital mechanical civilization, Chang Wei. Warning. Due to the lack of relevant relic information, precise location cannot be determined, and further tracing is impossible. It needs to be reported to the main authority, MOS, and wait for further orders. Chang Wei is back, along with his good buddy, Zhong Kai. After spending a year in the world of the Wandering Earth, they didn't expect that only 3 weeks had passed in their real hometown. Although it seems short, it gives them a sense of time disconnection. Why do they feel this way? Because during the 3 weeks they were gone, many events occurred back on Earth. A quick look at the trending news on their phones reveals a rough overview. Currently, the news about the alien warships that initially massacred in northern Myanmar has seemingly dropped out of the top 10, possibly due to intentional suppression by various countries. The third trending news item is that the nation is collaborating with the Myanmar government to capture the remaining criminals and gangs from the initial incident in northern Myanmar. According to publicly available data, it appears that over 200 individuals have been apprehended. These individuals will be escorted back home under police supervision for detailed hearings. Almost overnight, the criminal hotspots in northern Myanmar and the dark forces behind them were dismantled, earning applause from countless people. The second trending news item is the series of opposition and protests triggered by a certain country discharging nuclear wastewater into the ocean on August 24th. Such irresponsible behavior is simply a global malignancy. It instantly provoked public outrage. As for the top trending news, it is a smartphone called Mate 60, endorsed by a well-known figure from a certain country. It is described as being far ahead and sweeping across the internet, like a captivating melody. Having just returned, Chang Wei is not very familiar with the situation and has not made any comments. They plan to grab a bite in town and then head to an internet cafe to play some games, as it is currently leisure time and relaxation is key. Just as they finished their meal and logged in with their ID, the online police received a message and began contacting a secret department responsible for national security. The target has appeared. Chapter 70. Departure. Zhong Kai, let me show you a special skill. Watch closely. This is my hard-practiced extreme recoil control. Da-da-da. A series of bullets fired out. A beautiful streamer running from 400 meters away suddenly had her helmet explode and fell to her knees, exclaiming, "What the hell? There's a god here. Don't come over, there's a god." This scene left Zhong Kai dumbfounded, laughing and scolding Chang Wei for using a physical cheat. He teased, "Did you install a mechanical arm just to do this?" Chang Wei naturally retorted, "Same to you. We're evenly matched. Don't think I don't know where you've been after activating invisible mode. Should I list them one by one? No. Let us continue the game." Upon hearing that the beautiful streamer had fallen, the 3 online friends couldn't care less and all shouted, eager to perform a heroic rescue. In an instant, 2 became boxes on the ground, and 1, sensing danger, sped away on a motorcycle without looking back, calling it a tactical maneuver. Soon after, Chang Wei drove a vehicle, carrying Zhong Kai to loot the area. They immediately spotted a female streamer trembling behind a wall. The 2 approached her, guns aimed, alternating between crouching and standing, engaging in a rather inappropriate display. For the sake of the show, the female streamer went all out, turning on her mic and shouting, "Big brother, I'm a streamer. Spare me, please. I'm a streamer." Her voice was quite pleasant. The 2 continued to point their guns at her, threatening, "Strip off everything you have. We'll let you go." The chat in her live stream erupted with excitement, cheering continuously. Seeing that the show was going well, the streamer quickly begged for mercy, cleverly pleading for a reprieve. She began to remove her gear, ammunition, and weapons one by one. After they thoroughly looted everything she dropped, they found her somewhat amusing and decided not to kill her, driving away in their vehicle. However, not long after, as they passed through a bombed-out area, they faced unexpected retribution. The screen went black, showing that Chang Wei had eliminated 23 people, placing their team in 11th. Unfortunately, they almost secured a victory. For them, after experiencing so much, winning or losing was no longer a big deal. After exiting the game, Chang Wei checked the time and said to Zhong Kai, "It's getting late. Let's call it a night. How about we grab some late-night snacks and head to my place for the night?" "Huh? Sleep together? Just the 2 of us? That is not appropriate." Chang Wei rolled his eyes and retorted, "Sleep together with your stinky feet? You really dare to think that? You can sleep in the guest room." "Haha, just kidding. Did you really think I wanted to climb into your bed?" They laughed as they walked to the main street of the town, choosing a familiar barbecue place and patiently waiting. However, while waiting for their late-night barbecue to be prepared, Zhong Kai, now a ghost, seemed to sense something unusual. He leaned closer to Chong Wei and whispered, "Someone is tracking us." Chong Wei's eyes flickered for a moment. Then he calmly asked, "How many? Are we exposed?" Having studied under Tuasu for a long time, Zhong Kai had developed a certain proficiency in espionage skills and psychic abilities. He quickly analyzed and confirmed. Within a 200-meter radius, there are 15 disguised individuals. They are well-trained, and at least 3 of them have been keeping their eyes on us every second. They must be from the government. I'm sure we've been compromised. Watching the flames on the barbecue grill crackling and sizzling, Chong Wei connected the dots in just over a minute. Perhaps it was that initial post that caught the government's attention, coupled with the real name registration for online activities. It was easy for them to pinpoint his location. Moreover, with a little careful investigation in the vicinity, they would discover that his actions had significant anomalies. Now, after mysteriously disappearing for 3 weeks, his sudden reappearance immediately attracted the attention of the authorities, who dispatched personnel to monitor him. It makes sense. In this information age, it's not difficult for the state machinery to locate someone. However, Chong Wei had nothing to fear because as long as he summoned the luminary fleet, he could suppress the entire world in no time. But then what? To claim kingship and dominate the globe? That clearly does not align with Chong Wei's character. Perhaps the fate of a fleet commander is to be bound to the fleet. Longing for the peaceful life of solitude is, in itself, a mistake. Moreover, the mission of the luminary fleet is to travel across myriad realms to carry out rescue missions. They are not interested in ruling or dominating, nor is it our responsibility. Well, since there is no intention to engage in power and interest games with the human governments of this world, it's better to leave early. This way, mutual suspicion and misunderstandings won't deepen, leading to a complete fallout. I understand the principle that a person is innocent, but bearing a treasure can lead to trouble. Human nature is greedy. Limitless assistance only leads to resentment. Besides, Chong Wei had already helped once and felt no guilt about it. Furthermore, he didn't need to seek any answers. Seeking answers means letting others make choices for you, which results in abandoning your own choices. If one seeks answers to gain the teacher's admiration, then the teacher's perspective will limit your vision. If one seeks answers for the world's recognition, then the world will surround you with walls. As the highest commander of the luminary fleet, Chong Wei must learn to have his own opinions and make his own decisions. Only in this way can the rescue operations remain pure and not be driven by so-called patriotism or personal interests. Moreover, after his return, he was also considering establishing a stable production base that could supply and maintain the fleet. Since that's the case, there's no time like the present. He might as well get it done. Boss, the barbecue is ready. Thank you. After settling the bill, Chong Wei whispered to Zhong Kai, "Let us hit the restroom. Then we'll head back to the fleet. It seems we can't stay on Earth any longer." Zhong Kai hesitated but eventually nodded. Soon, the personnel assigned to monitor them noticed something was off. Could these two be in the restroom, eating while? They had been inside for so long. This wouldn't do. They needed to check it out. Before long, a disguised man walked out, looking visibly frustrated, and reported to his team leader through the earpiece, "Captain, the targets are gone. We've lost track of them." Anger erupted from the other end of the earpiece. "What did you say? 2 large living beings. And you're telling me you lost them? Did they get flushed into another dimension? Find them now." Chapter 71. Heading towards the stars and the sea. Chong Wei and Zhong Kai had already teleported to the Hubrian, located behind Neptune, while the Cybertron Ark, Gorgon-class battlecruiser, and the super mothership Endless had also been deployed there by Chong Wei. Next, they will hold a discussion here. Once the destination is confirmed, they will set sail towards the starry sky and establish their military factories, starports, and logistics bases in a stable star system. Although the current fleet of the Light Chasers is not very large, it is still wise to prepare early for the future. At the meeting convened by Chong Wei, the captains and commanders of various warships engaged in intense debates and discussions about where to build the fleet base. Due to the sudden nature of the situation, the Light Chasers did not conduct star map collection and exploration, so they simply input the star system observation charts obtained from human astronomy into the supercomputer. The computer was then tasked with automatically analyzing the relevant star systems that meet the conditions for establishing a base and marking them with letters A, B, C, and D. Captain Matt Horner of the Hubrian was the first to speak. "I believe we should choose star system A as our base. The planetary orbits within it are not too far apart, which facilitates the dispatch of supplies and personnel, allowing for quicker responses to various emergency transport and allocation situations." Captain Thomas Lasky of the Endless shook his head and replied, "I disagree. Although Star System A has convenient transportation, its resources are relatively scarce and cannot meet our fleet's future production and logistics needs. We should choose Star System B, which is rich in resources and has 9 planets, making it very suitable for building a large base and numerous supporting facilities." First Officer Armstrong of the Endless naturally sided with his captain and nodded. I agree with Captain Thomas. Star System B has abundant mineral resources and ample space, making it ideal for establishing production and logistics bases for the fleet. Moreover, we can solve the issue of supply dispatch by increasing transport routes. Matt Horner furrowed his brow and pointed to the Star System's route map, saying, however, the geographical position of Star System B is relatively remote, with the distance from its aphelion and perihelion to the star being 39 times greater. Additionally, there is a growing black hole nearby. While it is currently at a safe distance, it could suddenly expand at any moment and consume that area. Thomas Lasky responded, you have a point. But we can address the supply dispatch issue by increasing the transport fleet and stockpiling resources. We can also establish corresponding measurement and early warning mechanisms to monitor the black hole. The most important thing is that the resource advantages of Star System B can provide our fleet with a better development platform. Swan, with hands on his hips, nodded. While transporting supplies in Star System B is indeed challenging and there are certain safety risks, its resources are undeniably rich. I also believe we should choose a relatively resource-rich star system. At this moment, Captain Gorgon, who had been silent for a long time, began to speak. Actually, I think we must pay attention to the safety risks. We cannot only consider the immediate abundance of resources, we also need to think about long-term development. Perhaps we could also consider other star systems, such as Star System C. After a heated debate and discussion, the differences among the fleet captains and commanders remained, and they could not reach a unified opinion. As the highest commander of the fleet, Chang Wei held the decisive power. However, he did not act arbitrarily. Instead, he listened carefully to many suggestions, began to summarize various viewpoints, and proposed a compromise plan. All right, based on everyone's opinions, I have decided to choose Galaxy C as the starport base and logistics support base for the Light Chaser fleet. It has certain transportation convenience, abundant resources, and a relatively safe environment. This will be enough for us to develop and grow for a long time. The captains and commanders of various warships thought for a moment and gradually accepted Chang Wei's compromise plan. Although not everyone was completely satisfied, they all agreed that it was a relatively balanced and feasible choice. Moreover, through this discussion meeting, Chang Wei gained a deeper understanding of his subordinates. Throughout the discussion, all the captains and commanders displayed independent thinking and steadfast positions. Despite differing opinions, a moderate and workable plan for the fleet's construction was ultimately established through discussion and compromise. Every word and action, every expression and demeanor was clearly visible. This was certainly not something that NPCs in a game could achieve. Chang Wei was certain that these individuals created by the system were real people. Thinking of this, Chang Wei looked over at his brother, Zhong Kai, as he was the second natural person in the entire fleet besides himself. However, Zhong Kai's expression seemed a bit lonely. Chang Wei appeared to have thought of something and immediately gave orders for the fleet to proceed with a faster-than-light jump towards Galaxy C. After handling the current matters, Chang Wei walked over to Zhong Kai's side and asked with concern, "What's wrong? Are you reluctant to leave Earth? If you want, I can send you back right now." Zhong Kai sighed and replied, "It's okay, just a little reluctant. You know my family situation. My mother passed away when I was young, and my dad is a bit of a drifter in the village, basically neglecting me. Even now, he spends all his time gambling and wandering the streets. Completely oblivious and indifferent even when I was taken to northern Myanmar. That's why I insisted on working after graduating from high school. I didn't want to stay in that house. However, it is the place where I was born and raised. So having this feeling of melancholy should be considered a reluctance to leave my homeland, right?" Chang Wei actually felt the same way, but he did not show it. A commander cannot display weakness in front of their subordinates. Chang Wei smiled slightly, patted Zhong Kai on the shoulder, and said, "If we consider Earth as a cradle, then humanity is the baby born in this cradle. Babies grow up continuously, slowly becoming adults. They learn to turn over, crawl, walk, and talk. They understand right from wrong, experience warmth and cold, and grasp life and death. But one day, humanity will leave the cradle and venture into the stars and the sea. However, now we, with our sci-fi fleet, have taken a billion steps ahead of everyone else. Moreover, in the future, our pace will not stop, because we have grown up. We understand what responsibility is, we have experienced what life is, and we know what faith is. Our future will also be even more brilliant." Chapter 72, A large sum of money. Choose the shortest for 3 long and 1 short, the longest for 3 short and 1 long. Select B for 2 long and 2 short, A for the same length and same short, D for uneven lengths, and C for irregularities. Alright, it's decided, Galaxy C. The Light Chaser fleet is all set, ready to initiate the faster-than-light jump. However, before departing, Chang Wei left behind several concealed probes in the solar system to keep track of dynamics within it. Although he left Earth, it does not mean he abandoned his identity and values as a human. He still loves his homeland, but from the day he obtained the multiverse rescue system. He has had his own path. If one day his home planet and humanity face trouble, he will surely lead the Light Chaser fleet back to rescue them. Standing before the panoramic window of the Huberian, he took one last look at the distant Earth. The sun's rays illuminated its side, casting half of it in deep darkness and the other half in dazzling brilliance, as if illustrating the philosophy of life. On the journey of life, half is memories, and half is continuation. Half is regret, and half is hope. Half cannot be retained, yet half can still be pursued. A fish that leaves the water is no longer a fish. Suddenly, I kind of understand this line from the three-body problem. Chong Wei closed his eyes, paused for a second in silence, then calmly gave the order to the entire fleet. Depart. This is not home. Let us build our own home. Yes, Commander. The captains of each ship responded and began to execute Chong Wei's orders. The star domain coordinates have been input, and the fleet's broadcast begins with the final countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Faster than light jump. Set sail, embark. Swish, swish, swish. The surrounding starlight instantly transformed into countless beams, resembling a magnificent musical staff, composing the melody of the starry sea. The journey will take about 2 hours, but the scenery remains unchanged. After observing for a while, Chong Wei lost interest. He then stood up and said to Matt Hina, "Matt, I'll leave this to you. I'm heading back to my cabin. Call me when we arrive." "Understood, Commander." Back in his cabin, Chong Wei opened the system panel and began to calculate the gains from the last mission. Rescue of Colonel Liu Peiqiang. Completed. Reward 3,000 task points. Rescue of Senior Pilot Han Xiong. Completed. Reward 2,000 task points. Rescue of CN-17111 Rescue Team Leader Wang Lei. Completed. Reward 1,000 task points. Rescue of 350. 000 lives in Hangzhou Underground City. Completed. Reward 5,000 task points. Rescue from the global disaster caused by Jupiter's gravitational crisis. Completed. Reward 10,000 task points. Optional mission. Rescue the humans of this world. Completed. Reward 100,000 task points. With the additional 500 task points he had left and the 77,000 points earned from 365 days of sign-ins, Chong Wei now has a total of 198,500 task points, which is an incredible fortune. Setting aside the daily sign-in rewards, why is there such a huge difference in task income between the world of the Wandering Earth and the previous two tasks? Chong Wei vaguely suspects that this might be closely related to the number of people saved and the potential future impact of those individuals. For example, if you save the life of a child named John Connor, who becomes the leader of the human resistance in the future, then his influence will undoubtedly be immense and could even alter the entire timeline. Naturally, his importance is far greater than that of an ordinary person. These individuals are often referred to as protagonists or the children of destiny. It is only natural that saving protagonists and key characters yield substantial rewards. To quote Chow Chow from the new version of Three Kingdoms, "How do you know that today's nameless nobody will not shine in the world tomorrow?" The number of people involved is another variable. Whether in future development or participation in various events, it all revolves around people. A rebellion led by one person is doomed to fail. A rebellion of 10 is also a failure. Even 100 or 1,000 will still fail. But what if it involves tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions? This is where qualitative change emerges from quantitative change. Moreover, with such a large population base, who can guarantee that the ordinary person you save today won't give birth to future extraordinary individuals, great saints, or saviors? Thus, it makes sense that Chong Wei can reap such enormous rewards in the world of the Wandering Earth, especially after hearing the system say that due to his strong intervention, there is a 96% chance that humanity in that world will enter the ranks of level 6 civilization in the future. What does this mean? To describe it in terms of cultivation literature, it's as if he is akin to Hongjun Laozu, bestowing upon them the foundation to achieve sainthood. Although this description might be somewhat exaggerated, the essence is not far off. Should it be so? He merely provided them with the foundational science and related technologies of level 13 civilization, and they can reach level 6 civilization? Are the humans of the Wandering Earth really that formidable? Suddenly, Chong Wei thought of a possibility. Could it be because of his final command to Tuasu to save Moss? It's uncertain. Since he couldn't figure it out, he decided not to dwell on it. Now that he has such a large sum of money, he needs to quickly expand the scale of his fleet. Chong Wei opened the system interface and began to purchase battleship slots. The first battleship slot is free, the second costs 2,000 task points, the third 4,000, the fourth 6,000, and so on. Although the cost increases with each subsequent slot, Chong Wei can still afford it. He must also thank the system for being generous. Otherwise, with a doubling mechanism, he would probably never be able to assemble a fully equipped fleet of 12 starships in his lifetime. The fifth slot has been unlocked, consuming 10,000 task points. The sixth slot has been unlocked, consuming 10,000 task points. The seventh slot has been unlocked, consuming 12,000 task points. With the system prompt sounding continuously, Chang Wei purchased 8 battleship slots in one go, spending a total of 120,000 task points. After the deduction, he still has 68,500 task points left. Next, he will begin selecting battleships for recruitment. He wonders if having 12 battleships will upgrade his system permissions. It should, right? Otherwise, being stuck at the 4th level civilization battleships would be quite frustrating. Chapter 73. Mobile Base Selecting Battleship Recruitment follows an incremental mechanism. It costs 600 task points when recruiting the Endless. The next recruitment will cost 700, then 800, and so on. This means that if all 8 new battleships are recruited in this way, Chang Wei will need to spend an additional 8 for 100 task points. If he didn't have a substantial amount of funds now, he wouldn't dare to be so extravagant. Chang Wei has a clear idea about the selection of the 8 new battleships. First, he must recruit a ship that is stealthy, has strong detection and reconnaissance capabilities, and possesses certain research technologies. This type of battleship primarily focuses on reconnaissance and does not engage in direct combat, aside from providing early warning and scouting for the fleet. It must also carry out covert operations or special mission tasks. Given that the rescue missions Chang Wei will face in the future will definitely not be uniform or always involve overwhelming combat power, he must take advantage of having money now to quickly procure a variety of battleship types, ensuring he has the means to deal with various situations. After some thought, Chang Wei could only think of 4 battleships. In the movie Thor: The Dark World, the Dark Elf Malekith's spacecraft is known for its exceptional stealth capabilities, allowing it to silently infiltrate the divine realm of Asgard. If it weren't for Heimdall's all-seeing eye, its arrival would have gone unnoticed. In the game StarCraft 2, Covert Operations, Nova's Griffin is also a stealthy exploration ship with support and research capabilities. Similarly, there is the Dark Templar and renowned archaeologist Zeratul, who pilots the Void Seeker, a mysterious exploration ship designed for archaeology and covert operations. In the film series Predator, although the Predator species is known for being combative and has very traditional and primitive combat habits, their spaceship technology is truly impressive. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to hunt across countless star systems. Among the 4 battleships, 3 are of alien origin. Considering the potential issues with technology integration and compatibility, Chang Wei ultimately chooses the Griffin. After all, if he needs to modify or upgrade certain technologies in the future, it will be relatively easier. Plus, the Luminal fleet has already become a multinational entity. Adding more battleships from other races at this point would only complicate logistics, maintenance, and supply efforts. Despite the differences in technology among human sci-fi battleships across various worldviews, the challenges remain significant. However, the overall framework, pipeline layout, cabin distribution, control modes, and weapon configurations still share quite a few commonalities. As long as the engineers make a few adjustments, your sister could easily sit in my vehicle, and my shells could fit into your cannon. But if it's a peculiar system like that of the Iron-Blooded Warriors, just a system format converter could leave the engineers bald. Swan's hair was already quite sparse, so let us not make it worse for others. I wonder if the system has a buy one get one free offer. Otherwise, Chang Wei could brag that his Nova was a bonus for topping up. However, such heroic units are highly unlikely. Did you see the Ark of Cybertron? It didn't even provide Optimus Prime, did it? Otherwise, when Chang Wei recruited the Huberian, Lei Ritian should have been on board, sporting a center part and wearing denim overalls, playing basketball while waiting for himself. With 7 warships remaining to choose from, Chang Wei, being self-aware, decided not to drag it out and recruited all at once. These 7 warships are 1. The Lunar-class cruiser from Warhammer 40k. 2. The mechanized ark serving the machine cult. 3. The Imperial Glory Queen-class battleship. 4. The Space Nest Mountain Array. 5. The Imperial-class Star Destroyer from Star Wars. 6. The Revitalization-class Star Destroyer. 7. The Defender-class heavy cruiser. Coupled with the previously recruited Griffin, the fleet size of the Dawnbringer fleet exploded from 4 vessels to 12. Before Chang Wei could check on the new warships docked in the system slots, he heard a system notification sound. Ding. Detected that the host fleet size has reached 12 vessels. System permissions upgraded to Level 3. Level 3 system permissions grant a 72-hour mission preparation time and unlock the Level 5 requirements for recruiting civilization warships. At the same time, mobile base slots are now available, allowing the host to recruit mobile fortresses, planetary bastions, space star cities, home megastructures, cosmic arcs, etc. Current slot count: 1. The price to purchase a slot is 100,000 mission points, with each additional slot increasing by 20,000 mission points. Current remaining mission points: 60,100. Chang Wei was stunned. the ability to recruit mobile fortresses, planetary bastions, space star cities, home megastructures, and cosmic arcs? Wow, it feels like he's about to take off. Changwei immediately opened the mobile base slot, and the system popped up a box filled with various mobile fortresses, planetary bastions, space star cities, home megastructures, and cosmic arcs. However, unlike recruiting warships, this came at a price, requiring mission points for purchase. Changwei glanced over and exclaimed that these were things he couldn't afford. The City of Bald Eagles, from Legend of the Galactic Heroes, is a combat fortress used by the Galactic Empire to conquer the galaxy. Originally a planet, it was transformed by the Empire into a mobile fortress for the front lines against the Alliance. Its mass is 40 megatons, and its surface material is a giant artificial celestial body made of alloy magnetic composite materials. It can accommodate 16,000 warships of kilometer scale and 2,000,000 soldiers. The main cannon is an ultra X-ray cannon, known as the Vulture's Hook, with a wavelength of 100 angstroms and an output of 740 megawatts. Powerful enough to rival the Isherland Fortress, making it the second most powerful military stronghold in the Galactic Empire. Price, 60,000 task points. The Death Star, originating from a famous space saga, is the ultimate military unit built for the Empire. It features a navigation matrix connected by 123 hyperspace drive field generators, a massive magnetic field, and artificial gravity, capable of autonomously capturing a large number of warships and small celestial bodies. Its surface is covered with tens of thousands of armed turrets, totaling 15,000 turbo laser cannons and 768 tractor beams. It has a total of 342,953 personnel in the Imperial Navy and Army, with 25,984 stormtroopers, plus various other troops, amounting to approximately 2 million. Additionally, it is equipped with a concave Jirasu Chalji Gong Pal as its main gun, capable of easily destroying planets and other large celestial bodies. Price, 70,000 task points. The following information can be disregarded. With the remaining task points, Changwei can only afford the cheapest Vulture City. So, should he purchase it directly or accumulate more task points for a better option? After all, the slots for mobile bases are quite expensive. Just as Changwei was in a dilemma, there was a knock on the door from outside the room. Commander, we have arrived at Galaxy C, but we need you to come and take a look, as we have discovered 2 life-bearing planets. Chapter 74. New Rescue Mission 2 Planets with Life? This is no small matter. The existence of extraterrestrial civilizations, in Changwei's impression, was either portrayed in American superhero films, where incompetent individuals traveled great distances to meet their doom, or like the hunters hiding in the dark forest in a popular science fiction novel. The former enjoyed flamboyantly meeting their end, influenced by the director's narrative, with one more ridiculous than the other. It's amusing to think that an interstellar civilization could be defeated by a group of Earth natives still using primitive tools, not even reaching a level 1 civilization, leading to their downfall along with their healthcare cards and pensions. The latter group consists of unprincipled beings, lurking in the shadows to carry out extermination tasks. Once their civilization is exposed, they are at risk of being ambushed at any moment. With technologies like light particles, two-dimensional foils, water droplets, singularity bombs, and low-energy vacuum spheres, who could withstand such an onslaught? Thus, it is only natural for Changwei to take this matter seriously. Ignoring it would be the greatest irresponsibility towards himself and the fleet. Therefore, Changwei immediately went to the bridge with Matt, urgently inquiring along the way, Matt, did we discover extraterrestrial civilizations on those 2 life-bearing planets? What is their level of civilization? Do they possess a space fleet? Or have they already noticed us? Matt shook his head and replied, Commander, the real situation may be more complicated than you think. We have indeed found traces of civilized activity on those 2 life-bearing planets. However, through observation and research, it seems that their level of civilization development is quite low, at most reaching a level 1 civilization. Additionally, from the numerous ruins discovered and the remnants of structures that have been artificially destroyed in orbit around the planet, it appears that they have experienced a brutal war, which has led their civilization to a state of apocalypse. Changwei filtered out the unnecessary information and focused on the key points. He looked at Matt Horner and continued to ask, do they pose a threat to our fleet? Matt Horner replied, no, Commander. Their current situation is dire. They are practically struggling to survive. They can only remain trapped on the planet and barely endure in this apocalyptic environment. As they spoke, they had already arrived at the bridge of the Hubrian. Without wasting time, Changwei directly ordered the crew to display the collected surveillance footage. The 2 planets were of similar sizes, and their orbits were both within the habitable zone of the star system. However, one was covered in thick ice and snow, appearing as a large white ice ball, while the other was lush and green but shrouded in a mysterious fog, giving it an eerie appearance. Changwei reached out to the control panel, bringing his fingers together and then spreading them apart to instantly magnify the image of the white planet numerous times. Soon, he could see the internal landscape of the planet. It was a city enveloped in ice and snow, and the entire scene resembled a desolate world in extreme cold. With freezing temperatures and biting winds that had frozen the entire city, even the whole world. Buildings and streetlights were covered in thick layers of snow, creating a beautiful yet tragic scene. The whole city exuded a cold and silent atmosphere, as if time itself had been frozen. The sky was filled with gray, without a trace of warm sunlight. The cold wind howled past, stirring the snow into a swirling vortex. It was as if this ice-covered planet had entered an endless winter. Suddenly, Changwei saw a group of figures struggling through the heavy snowfall. They were dressed in heavy clothing, hunching their shoulders, carrying supplies on sleds, and moving in a specific direction. Due to the obscured view from their clothing and the high vantage point, Changwei couldn't clearly see the appearance of those figures at first. It wasn't until he magnified the image again and adjusted to another angle that he realized these beings were not human, but a group of humanoid creatures with the heads of Siberian wolves. Were they werewolves? Or dog-headed beings? Changwei was surprised for a few seconds before withdrawing his gaze. He then proceeded to observe the other green planet. Just as he suspected, this planet was also a world of apocalyptic disaster. However, here, the crisis was caused by a viral mutation leading to a biochemical catastrophe. Countless mutated beasts and zombies roamed freely. The survivors were a group of humanoid beings with feline heads. They had established various shelters and strongholds globally, engaging in desperate struggles for survival in this perilous end-of-the-world scenario. Seeing this, Changwei couldn't help but exclaim. It turns out that feline and canine beings truly exist. One on a frozen, desolate planet, turned into a dog. The other on a planet ravaged by biochemical disaster, turned into a cat. Feline beings? Canine beings? What happened to you? How did you end up in such a state? Changwei snapped back to reality, thought for a moment, and then instructed Matt Horner, allocate some resources to monitor these two planets. Report immediately if any security risks are detected. Yes, Commander. Matt Horner nodded and continued. At the same time, our team will also begin operations. I will deploy the 8 newly recruited warships shortly. Together, we will start resource extraction and construction in this star system. Ideally, we should establish a basic factory setup before the next rescue mission arrives. Matt Horner saluted Changwei with a firm response. Understood. We will ensure the mission is completed. Soon, the Zhulite fleet began bustling within this star system. Various sizes of spacecraft were coming and going, transforming the previously lonely cosmos into a lively scene. Meanwhile, following a unanimous vote, this star system was officially named by the Zhulite fleet as the Ymir star system, meaning freedom. After managing everything, Changwei, who had been coordinating for a day, was quite exhausted. Taking a break, he prepared a bowl of white elephant crab yellow noodles he had brought from Earth, then opened a bag of dried earthworms from the wandering Earth and began to savor his meal. The taste was simply exquisite. One word, delicious. Just as he was happily enjoying his food, an untimely notification rang in his mind. Ding! A rescue signal has been detected. The content was as follows. Quickly, the system's voice switched to a knowledgeable male tone. Whoever you are, when you read this message, I may no longer be in this world. Using force to eradicate war. The heavens have made me, a being only capable of fighting. Understand the meaning of struggle. Just like back then, I want to know why the world is so distorted, and where this distortion comes from. Why do people harbor unconscious malice? Why does no one notice this malice? Why is there an existence that drives one to obsession for a lifetime? Why do people dominate others or be dominated? Why must we hurt each other? Despite all this, why do humans continue to live this way? I am in pursuit. Perhaps until the day a true angel descends, I will find these answers. I continue to seek together with Gundam. Chapter 75, Gundam 00 Movie. Awakening of the Pioneer Rescue Mission Generating Mission World, Gundam 00 Movie. Awakening of the Pioneer. Mission objective, to save and sustain human civilization. In the forthcoming dialogue, promote mutual understanding between humans and the extraterrestrial metallic life forms, preventing the outbreak of war and conflict between the two civilizations. Additionally, assist the people of this world in establishing a mechanism for peaceful coexistence with the ELS, opening the door to the stars and the sea. There are many differences between individuals, between nations, and even between human civilization and extraterrestrial civilizations. When these differences cannot be understood by each other, conflicts and wars will inevitably arise. Just like when a shadow suddenly appears in our line of sight in a dark forest, we are unlikely to risk approaching it. Instead, we would prefer to fire a few shots at it, unless we have enough strength to dare to make contact. To prepare for a possible first contact dialogue with extraterrestrial civilizations in the future, 200 years ago, the genius scientist discovered GN particles. which have the ability to connect human consciousness and promote human evolution. He proposed the idea of creating a semi-perpetual power source, dubbed the GN driver or solar furnace. Using these particles, he understood that humanity's journey would not be confined to the solar system and would soon venture into the universe. However, within humanity, there was rampant political division, deceit, oppression, and continuous warfare. To prevent humanity from carrying this chaos, madness, and warfare into the universe, and to facilitate peaceful communication and contact with other civilizations, he gathered a large number of scientists and influential figures from around the world and established a private organization known as Celestial Beings. To avoid mass destruction through the use of weapons, while also paving the way for future interventions, the organization covertly operated in various countries, leading them to agree to abandon nuclear energy and weapons in favor of collaborating to establish large-scale solar power generation facilities. However, the use of solar energy significantly impacted traditional fossil fuel sources, severely harming the interests of nations that had prospered from oil, leading to decades of conflict known as the Solar Power Wars. After these wars, the global landscape stabilized, forming a tripartite structure led by alliances of various nations, including a coalition of certain countries, a federation formed by its allies, and a new alliance among European nations. Meanwhile, the three major powers participated in the construction of solar power and orbital elevators, continuously obtaining cheap electricity. Smaller nations that did not participate, particularly some in the Middle East, became increasingly impoverished due to their lack of access to electricity. Beneath this seemingly peaceful facade filled with hidden contradictions, the public military intervention of the Celestial Beings officially began. According to the original plan, the intervention by the Celestial Beings would inevitably attract the hatred of countries around the world, uniting the three powers against them. In the final battle, the armed units of the Celestial Beings would be overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of the three nations, ultimately leading to their defeat and demise, while the solar furnace and its technology would fall into the hands of these nations. Simultaneously, the powerful figures and politicians associated with the Celestial Beings would act in concert to unite the three governments and establish a unified global regime. The reverse engineering of solar furnace technology would enable the new Earth government to acquire and apply this technology on a large scale. Thus, the coverage of GN particles would expand, accelerating human evolution, and the first changers would begin to emerge. The success rate of potential first contact dialogues with extraterrestrial civilizations has significantly increased. Although this plan has gone through numerous twists and turns, resulting in countless tragedies and sacrifices, it has ultimately returned to the right track as envisioned by a certain strategist. Now, 200 years later, the anticipated dialogue is about to take place. Will it lead to humanity's destruction? Or will it usher in a new beginning in the vast universe? Human civilization has reached a crossroads in its fate. All the planning and preparation over the past 200 years have been for this moment. Mission rewards. Rescue all members of the Celestial Armed Organization. Reward of 10,000 mission points. Rescue soldiers of the Earth Federation to prevent their total annihilation. Reward of 10,000 mission points. Rescue Graham Ika and his team, the Soul Braves, to prevent their total annihilation. Reward of 5,000 mission points. Save human civilization to prevent 7 billion people, along with the Earth, from being completely assimilated by ELS. Reward of 100,000 mission points. Save the home planet of ELS to prevent it from being consumed by stellar helium flashes within the galaxy. Reward of 50,000 mission points. Optional mission. Assist human civilization in launching a cosmic broadcast and help establish the City of 1,000 Stars, successfully forming a pan-cosmic civilization alliance. Reward of 100 million mission points. Mission countdown, 71 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds. Wow. The Gundam 00? The Awakened Pioneers? No, the mission rewards you mentioned earlier seemed reasonable. But what on earth is that 100 million mission point reward? Helping human civilization launch a cosmic broadcast? ISNT that asking for trouble? Chong Wei was so excited he kept swallowing, knowing that this was his favorite Gundam series. If the idle drama-like Gundam Seed series saved the declining Gundam IP, then Gundam 00 took the Gundam IP to a whole new level. Because in terms of visual quality, special effects, storyline, and scale, it was unmatched in the Gundam series at that time. The reality also confirmed this. There's a saying online, after Gundam 00, there is no more Gundam. It means that the Gundam IP has been on a downhill trajectory since Gundam 00. Especially in recent years, aside from Iron-Blooded Orphans and The Witch from Mercury. Other Gundam anime have failed to recapture the feeling of watching Gundam 00. Now, the next mission allows entry into the world of Gundam 00. How could that not excite Chong Wei? He pressed his arm tightly, his cheeks trembling as if he was struggling with something. Calm down. Calm down. I must remain composed. I am the supreme commander of the fleet, not a Gundam pilot. I must not act recklessly. My life is tied to the fate of the entire fleet. After a moment, Chang Wei calmed himself, took a deep breath, and then opened his communicator to issue a command to all the captains and commanders of the warships. 2 hours later, all personnel aboard the Hubrian for a meeting. We have a mission. Chapter 76, Operation Meeting, Intelligence Sharing. 2 hours later, everyone had arrived. Chang Wei glanced around the crowd and nodded silently. As he had expected, the warships and heroic units were separate. Therefore, among the newly recruited warship personnel, he did not see any half-god iron cans with 3 spikes on their foreheads, nor any Imperial judges equipped with flashlights who could use dark powers. Chang Wei had anticipated this, so he did not have high expectations. He then introduced everyone to each other and took his seat at the head of the table, directly stating the theme of the meeting. The next mission of the Light Chaser fleet had been determined, and we had 69 hours left to prepare. Our destination was a world dominated by mecha styles. There, human civilization had formed a unified government known as the Human Federation. The overall technological level of the Human Federation was approximately between levels 1 and 2, with a somewhat skewed technology tree that emphasized the use of humanoid armed mechas called Gundams for combat. These humanoid mechas possessed strong mobility and could fight in space. It had been 2 years since the end of the Reformer incident, and their world had returned to peace. However, this peace did not last long. The Earth Federation discovered an unknown alien metallic life form, referred to as ELS, which began attacking Earth. They descended like fragments of meteors, launching assaults on humans, specifically targeting the Reformers. The so-called Reformers were evolved humans who surpassed ordinary humans in physical fitness, cellular lifespan, and cognitive abilities. Moreover, the Reformers had evolved a form of mental power that could convey consciousness through brain quantum waves. It was precisely because of this uniqueness that the Reformers became the primary targets of ELS attacks. Humans under attack would gradually crystallize, being assimilated by ELS, appearing as decayed bodies parasitized by metal. As their organs and internal systems were continuously pressed and assimilated, those individuals naturally lost their lives. However, according to the intelligence we had gathered, ELS did not actually intend to harm humans. Rather, the significant differences between civilizations led to mutual misunderstandings, prompting them to adopt this direct approach in an attempt to forcefully merge with humans to gain their thoughts and ultimately achieve mutual understanding. Currently, the main force of ELS and their massive celestial body had moved near Jupiter's orbit and were slowly heading towards Earth. If this continued, both humanity and Earth would be destroyed by ELS. Therefore, the Human Federation would not sit idly by, but would mobilize the entire civilization as strength to construct an ultimate defense line to protect humanity and prepare for a decisive battle against ELS. Our mission as the Light Chaser fleet was to prevent the outbreak of this conflict and promote mutual understanding between the two sides. After Chang Wei finished speaking, a captain immediately asked, "Commander, do we have specific intelligence regarding ELS?" Chang Wei nodded and replied, "ELS is a type of extraterrestrial metallic life form with variable properties. Its entire body is composed of a metal that can freely deform and has the ability to merge with objects. During the process of eroding an object, it presents a silver-gray crystalline appearance internally. In its liquid metal form, it can mimic humans, mobile suits, or battleships. The mobile suits and battleships that ELS mimics are not exact replicas. Instead, they learn. After assimilating the relevant information, they can autonomously combine into the same models and weaponry as ours. This means that once our battleships are consumed and merged with, they can instantly take on the appearance of our ships and possess weaponry of equal caliber, ready to launch an attack on us." Upon hearing this, everyone present gasped in horror, their minds involuntarily conjuring images of countless Gorgon battle cruisers, mechanical arcs, and star destroyers suffocatingly closing in on them. Just thinking about it sent chills down their spines. Chang Wei glanced at the crowd and continued, "The terrifying aspect of this extraterrestrial metallic life form lies in its almost perverse ability to assimilate and collect information, working in a highly unified manner with a collective consciousness. Coupled with its ability to change forms at will and its overwhelming numbers, it poses an extreme danger. However, there is no need to worry. ELS is not without weaknesses. Firstly, they are extremely afraid of high temperatures, as heat can destroy the metallic bonds within them, leading to structural collapse. Therefore, using high-powered energy laser weapons against them would yield good results. Secondly, aside from the weapons they mimic, they only possess one type of attack method, quickly closing in for face-to-face engagement and forcibly merging with you. But as long as we activate our shields to keep them at bay, or maintain a relatively safe distance through mobility, they won't pose such a significant threat. Does anyone have any questions about this?" At this moment, another captain stepped forward and asked, "Commander, how can we facilitate mutual understanding between ELS and humanity? Considering the vast differences between species, Normal communication seems nearly impossible. If we cannot find a way to resolve this issue, we will inevitably resort to force to block ELS's advance. It might even lead to their extinction after a series of reluctant choices. Nearby, the mechanics and oilers brightened at this, secretly giving the speaking captain a thumbs up. Annihilation order. Huh? I like it. For such alien beings, it's all about extermination. Chang Wei was momentarily at a loss for words. This question hit the nail on the head. Firstly, as in the original scenario, assisting Shauna F in penetrating the interior of a supersized ELS and initiating quantum explosion mode to communicate with ELS would certainly work. However, that would undoubtedly come with immense risks and casualties. So what should be done? Time until task start. 67 hours, 39 minutes, 56 seconds. Chapter 77. The gradual unfolding 200 years ago, an ordinary conversation took place quietly on a lonely island. Who could have known that this dialogue would resonate and influence a significant event that would determine the fate of all humanity 2 centuries later? The discovery of new particles capable of transmitting consciousness, the conceptual foundation for creating semi-permanent devices using those particles, the invention of quantum processing systems, the construction of space elevators, and the promotion of solar energy systems. Each of these represents a major technology that could lead to greater prosperity for human society. Yet you despise humanity and choose to live alone on this isolated island. A distinguished-looking man, holding a cup of red tea, sat elegantly in a chair, looking at the doctor who was inputting data on the computer with his back turned. Hearing the gentleman's words, the doctor did not turn around but replied in a calm tone, "What I despise is merely the misguided use of intelligence. Where stubbornness or preconceived notions blind people to the true nature of the world, they bring misunderstanding, discord, and conflict. I only hope for mutual understanding among everyone." The distinguished man took a sip of his tea, a slight smile on his lips, and said lightly, "Is this the world you aspire to?" The doctor paused his work, slowly turning his chair to face the gentleman again, and said, "For humanity to use intelligence correctly, evolution is a necessity. Otherwise, even if we venture into the cosmos and explore greater worlds, it will only lead to new disasters. Isn't that a rather sad prospect?" Upon hearing this, admiration gleamed in the distinguished man's eyes. Reflecting on the words, he called out the doctor's name, Eolia. In the year 2314. 2 years had passed since the final battle between the momentary Qingying and the leader of the reformers, Liban's Almec. The newly formed Earth Federation, having overthrown the tyrannical dictatorship of the former independent security forces, began to accelerate the implementation of a policy of peaceful coexistence. At this time, people around the world, regardless of race or region, enjoyed the respect and fair distribution of resources they deserved. Everything was developing positively, though the scars left by past wars and suffering required time to heal. However, due to the expanding application and coverage of GN particles, a gradual awakening of reformers began to emerge among the global population. Although their numbers were still less than 1% of humanity, the extraordinary abilities they displayed caused panic among many ordinary people. In particular, the brain quantum waves emitted by the reformers could easily read the thoughts of ordinary individuals. This feeling of having one's inner self exposed led many to develop a strong aversion and rejection of the reformers, even perceiving them as monsters rather than humans. Descartes Charmin was one of the awakened reformers. He, a captain belonging to the Earth Federation Army, unexpectedly discovered during a combat mission that he had awakened as a reformer. This not only enhanced his physical fitness and neural reflex speed to more than 5 times that of an ordinary person, but also allowed him to hear the thoughts of others within the range of brain quantum waves. However, his awakening did not bring any privileges. Instead, the military treated him as a test subject, aiming to explore the abilities and data related to reformers. The days of wearing an electric collar around his neck, akin to a dog, left DKer Shaman feeling extremely dissatisfied. His perception of everyone gradually shifted from being approachable to becoming cold and sharp. If this continued, it would only be a matter of time before DKer Shaman was driven to become an anti-human, antisocial madman. However, fate had other plans. Brigadier General Kadima Mencken and her husband, Patrick Mencken, arrived on the Tianren ship. Upon learning that a military reformer named DKer Shaman was being shamelessly treated as a test subject, she decisively chose to rescue him. As a soldier of the Federation, DKer Shaman should receive the treatment befitting a Federation soldier. I now command you, as a Brigadier General, to remove the collar from his neck. Isn't this against regulations? Brigadier General Kadima Mencken, do you intend to defy orders? Or do you want the public to know you are using your own people for experiments? Ultimately, with Brigadier General Kadima Mannecken's strong intervention, DKer Shaman regained his freedom. Her actions also earned her the goodwill of Captain DKer Shaman. In gratitude, during the crisis aboard the Europa ship as it approached Earth, Captain D.K. Shaman personally piloted the latest Model MA Ghideiras to engage, shattering it into pieces. However, they were unaware that this Jupiter probe, which had drifted back like a ghost 130 years ago, was actually carrying ELS. After its debris entered Earth's atmosphere, it did not burn up completely, but successfully landed in various regions of the Earth. From then on, citizens with reformer factors began to appear, and incidents of unknown metal attacks surged, with cases of humans being assimilated by metal increasing. This prompted a research team led by Mina Kamai and Billy Cadu to investigate, labeling the so-called metal alien entity as ELS. Through further investigation and analysis, the Human Federation government speculated and discovered traces of ELS near Jupiter. They also believed that there was a possibility of communication with them. Thus, a small advance fleet was dispatched to confirm whether ELS possessed consciousness. From this moment, the first contact between humanity and extraterrestrial species gradually began to unfold. Chapter 78. In times of crisis, only responsibility remains, just as in the original plot. The small advance fleet sent to make contact with ELS was completely annihilated, with the warships and mechs being assimilated. Even Captain D.K. Shaman, who possessed the latest model of the reformer mecha, was not spared. They were overwhelmed in just 3 seconds by the massive influx of ELS, leading to their immediate defeat on the battlefield. In a hurried attempt to rescue them, the commander decided to use the enhanced system's quantum burst mode to communicate with the ELS. However, the amount of information transmitted by the ELS was far too vast and complex, ultimately causing the commander's brain to collapse under the strain. Despite a thrilling and perilous battle, the protagonists managed to escape. Yet, the commander's brain was damaged due to the torrent of information from the ELS. If it weren't for the protagonist's aura and the extraordinary strength of his brain's quantum waves, recovery would not have been possible. Nonetheless, the fact that the advance fleet was completely annihilated by the ELS prompted the Human Federation to make a decisive choice. They immediately designated the ELS as a hostile target and announced this crisis to the world, calling for all of humanity to unite, urgently recruiting for various high-risk and critical positions. 3 absolute defense lines were established in front of the large space fortress to protect Earth, and the commander was appointed as the supreme commander of the defense forces. A war that would determine the fate of humanity was about to begin. In the President's Office of the Human Federation, a group of officials were urgently reporting, "Mr. President, intelligence has confirmed that the advance fleet has been completely wiped out, and a new large extraterrestrial body has appeared near Jupiter. It has a diameter of about 3,000 kilometers, similar to that of the Moon. Moreover, countless medium and small ELS are gathering around it, moving towards Earth." The female president of the Human Federation, her eyes trembling for a few seconds, yet her expression resolute, immediately issued an order: implement countermeasures immediately. Soon, a global emergency message appeared on major news media and public displays. We interrupt this broadcast for an urgent news report. On September 18th, the Human Federation detected unknown extraterrestrial life near the orbit of Jupiter, which has now been identified as a large ELS. Its diameter is comparable to the Moon, and based on its scale and trajectory, areas throughout the solar system, especially Mars and Earth, will be affected. Citizens are advised not to panic and to follow the instructions of various departments. Upon hearing this news, countless people were shocked. Despite their inner fears, they chose to trust the government. After all, the achievements and efforts of the newly formed Human Federation over the past 2 years were evident to all. Meanwhile, an urgent directive was transmitted through secret channels to the commander's residence. "Commander, here is your directive." The commander nodded, seemingly having anticipated this, and slowly stood up, responding, "Understood." Now, the entire human society was mobilized. Measures to protect citizens and guide the media were already showing results, and in 12 hours, arrangements would be made for all ordinary people to seek refuge. The human military was also preparing for the impending war. In the federal government's emergency strategy meeting room, a group of leaders was seriously planning the operation. This was a war that risked the fate of all humanity. There was no room for retreat. "We must mobilize all our forces to establish an absolute defense line to protect our planet. We cannot allow the enemy to invade our territory. Our military deployment is as follows. The first defense line will consist of the main attack forces, including the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fleets. The second defense line will be supported by the 5th to 9th fleets. The remaining troops will serve as a rear guard, stationed at the main base to prepare for deployment. The commander of this operation is Brigadier General Katie Mana, who is currently assembling the fleets for the mission. Additionally, she is inspecting the equipment deployment of the interstellar fleet and familiarizing herself with the frontline command center for this operation. The entire military is expected to be fully deployed within the scheduled 765 minutes. At that point, everything that can be done will be ready. A government official asked the speaking officer, "What if the enemy changes course and bypasses the absolute defense line? How should we respond?" The officer glanced at the individual and replied helplessly, "Then our planet will suffer catastrophic damage, and humanity may face extinction." The government official slumped helplessly in his chair, murmuring despondently, "So we can only pray to the divine? Hope for a miracle? Or wish for another alien fleet to come and rescue us?" No, it is not about praying to the divine. It is about us creating our own future. For survival. For a brighter tomorrow. Even if it means hurting others in the end, we must do so. The room turned to look at the suddenly speaking female president, their gazes becoming resolute. For survival. For a brighter future. Even if it means using any means necessary, the evacuation effort began. As 7 billion people worldwide started to enter underground shelters or open refuges under the guidance of broadcasts and law enforcement. Once the enemy arrives, the surface will no longer be safe. Any material will be assimilated at the will of the enemy. The life of civilization is like a flickering candle, at risk of extinguishing at any moment. In times of crisis, responsibility prevails. Many individuals remain steadfast in their posts, unwavering in their resolve. Even amidst such danger, some chose to act against the tide. The government issued an urgent announcement, calling for a large number of technical personnel to assist in defending the space elevator. Participants are required to possess a Level 1 Cosmic Technology Engineer license. Interested citizens should report to designated military facilities for a brief interview and will then be assigned to specific positions. Details regarding work locations and compensation can be found on the federal government's official website under Cosmic Technology Engineer Recruitment. Humanity needs you. Upon seeing this announcement, countless husbands, boyfriends, fathers, and sons embrace their families and loved ones for heartfelt farewells. "My dear, I will protect you in this world. Wait for my return. Father, forgive me. I must go. You taught me that a country must come before a family. How can there be safety when the nest is overturned? Now, it is my turn to move forward against the tide. I'm sorry, son, but Dad has to go on a mission again. This is the most important mission of my life. I might not be back for a long time. As the man of the house, you need to grow up quickly and protect your mom, okay?" Countless tears of farewell surged forth as they resolutely headed to the dangerous battlefield. Meanwhile, the Celestial Being Arm team was also in action. GN solar furnaces, super quantum computing systems, Veda, the awakened reformer. These three elements are essential for the upcoming dialogue in the plan of Elio Yashenberg. 200 years of effort and planning have led to this moment. This is the final mission of the Celestial Being Organization, their ultimate purpose. They are about to embark on the battlefield of destiny, ready to face humanity's final judgment. Chapter 79. Humanity's Absolute Defense Line. Days later, at the Absolute Defense Line of humanity. In space, numerous cosmic battleships were distributed along the defense line, presenting a spectacular and tightly coordinated scene. They formed an unbreakable defensive line, constantly flashing with the brilliance of engines, exuding strong morale and determination. These cosmic battleships varied in design, each with different models and functions. Some were as large as giant beasts, loaded with various weapon systems to counter any threat. Others were agile and mobile, capable of swiftly maneuvering through space, tasked with reconnaissance and pursuit. Regardless of their size, they were the culmination of human wisdom and technology, fighting to protect Earth and the future of humanity. The Celestial Being Mobile Base, as a massive fortress facility, stood solidly behind the defense line. It provided command and support coordination, along with a powerful defense system capable of withstanding and suppressing enemy attacks. This giant fortress served as a stabilizing force for the human legions, allowing them to fully confront any challenges from the enemy. Opposite humanity was a vast army of extraterrestrial metallic life forms composed of ELS. They were enormous and terrifying, dense and overwhelming, resembling clouds of interstellar dust. These ELS existed in various shapes and sizes, from small missile-like individuals to cone-shaped entities the size of battleships, and even celestial bodies as large as the moon. The ELS army exhibited a unique beauty, their metallic bodies reflecting starlight like waves of brilliance. Driven by a collective consciousness, they communicated without words, coordinating seamlessly to form a massive and formidable legion. As the terrifying momentum of the ELS army slowly approached, a tense and intense atmosphere enveloped the cosmos. Humanity stood firm at the defense line, prepared to defend their homeland at all costs. Meanwhile, the ELS army was ready to launch a relentless offensive, aiming to destroy humanity's feeble defense. The battle was about to begin. The distance to the colossal ELS has reached our firing range, with 1,000 units remaining. The distance to the colossal ELS has reached our firing range, with 0032 units remaining. In the frontline command center, an officer saw the ELS arriving as expected, and without bypassing the absolute defense line, he immediately breathed a sigh of relief and said, It seems that we have won the first round of the gamble. Brigadier General Katamanijin, with a serious expression, interrupted him, saying, "This is just the beginning. The outcome is still uncertain." She then glanced around and stated solemnly, "All fleets, once the target enters the firing range, commence attack immediately. To avoid contact assimilation with the particle missiles and ELS, set all to proximity fuses." As soon as the order was issued, the frontline command center sprang into action. Countless interface pop-ups appeared in front of Brigadier General Katamanijin, allowing her to monitor the status of the entire army at any time. The fleets had completed preparations for long-range missile launches. Good. All forces, begin the first wave of missile attacks. The missiles launched. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, numerous particle missiles whistled out, crashing toward the ELS, creating a tempestuous sea of destruction. The first wave of missile attacks was fully launched, with the target still 370 units away. It was confirmed that the enemy targets were dispersing to the east. Upon reaching the target, initiate the detonation system immediately. The GN particle compression rate and detonation system are all functioning normally. Distance remaining, 300. Confirm activation. Amidst the tense and urgent information checks and shouts within the frontline command center, humanity's first wave of missile attacks erupted into a stunning display of explosive results. Countless ELS were overwhelmed by this terrifying wave of explosions, illuminating the dark universe with dazzling brilliance. All missiles hit their targets. The crowd gasped in astonishment and couldn't help but cheer for their side. But the next moment, their smiles vanished. The ELS did not stop. They surged through the massive explosions, emerging unscathed. Inside the frontline command center, someone immediately shouted, "The ELS are unharmed." They intercepted our information and activated a shield-like presence. How is this possible? A military advisor suddenly stood up from his seat, looking at the large screen. They actually understand the characteristics of our GN particle field? Brigadier General Katamanijin, unlike others who panicked, immediately issued a command. Prepare the large particle main cannon for firing. Inform all units to get ready for close combat with MS squads. We cannot allow the ELS to breach our defenses. Everyone exchanged glances and quickly complied. Countless MS mecha units surged out from their respective motherships like a tidal wave. With fearless courage and determination, they charged toward the ELS on this brutal battlefield. However, courage and determination could not compensate for the enormous disparity in combat power. The comparison of combat capabilities between the two sides was roughly 1 to 10,000. Each mecha had to face at least 10,000 individual ELS. It was nothing less than hell mode. On Earth, a group of officials and leaders from the federal government were fully focused in the conference room, watching the live broadcast of a war that could determine the survival of their entire civilization. The tense reporting was gripping, pulling at the nerves of everyone present. Large particle cannon charging at 70. Large particle cannon charging at 90. Large particle cannon charging at 100. Brigadier General Katamanijin exclaimed passionately, "Begin firing." A massive beam, accompanied by world-destroying power, swept towards the ELS army, instantly causing significant casualties along its path. At the same time, the enormous ELS celestial body was directly pierced by this strike. The fleet continued to attack with the particle cannon, while the MS squad maintained their GN field shields during their assault. Soon, fierce close-quarters combat erupted. Both sides intertwined in a chaotic and intense battlefield scene. The human mecha army swiftly maneuvered through space, launching an unparalleled ferocious offensive. The display screens were filled with sparks flying, energy beams crisscrossing through the void. They engaged in battle with remarkable speed and agility, using various firepower and tactical methods to cover each other, alternating attacks, and creating a dazzling, blood-pumping spectacle. The energy barges and the relentless close-quarter collisions with the ELS came like a dense meteor shower, striking from all angles. The mechas continuously dodged, maneuvered, and counterattacked, showcasing their exceptional control skills and tactical intelligence. Their entanglement resembled a waltz, sometimes elegant and fluid, at times fierce and intense, leaving spectators breathless. The GN shields flickered with brilliant light amidst the fierce fighting. They protected the mechas from the ELS's frenzied attacks, but many mechas also experienced shield overloads and shattered. Self-detonation before assimilation was their only choice. The explosion's glow echoed continuously in space, and debris flew scattered, adding to the brutal atmosphere. The entire battlefield was filled with the flames of explosions, energy shocks, cries of battle, and the screams of those facing death. I don't want to die. I absolutely cannot die. I must survive and return to the kernel. The situation began to turn increasingly unfavorable for humanity. Through assimilation, the ELS had already grasped the intelligence of the human side. Countless ELS merged together, taking on the appearance of human mechas and warships, launching energy and missile attacks. In an instant, the casualty rate for humanity surged dramatically. Countless soldiers, facing overwhelming odds, were ultimately destroyed one by one, bursting into brilliant sparks. The absolute defensive line of humanity was showing signs of collapse. Brigadier General Katie Managine frowned and gritted his teeth, immediately asking, "Reorganize the formation immediately. How much longer until the large particle main cannon is ready?" "Commander, the large particle main cannon has reached 55 charge, but it can be fired now." When Brigadier General Katie Mana heard this, he made a swift decision. Weaken the enemy's offensive. Large particle cannon. Fire at 24 degrees. Boom. Another terrifying beam of light shot from the fortress, immediately delivering devastating blows to the ELS along its path. However, this time, just as the attack was about to reach the massive ELS celestial body, an astonishing scene unfolded. A light barrier appeared, and the large particle cannon's fire was instantly refracted into countless light points, dissipating into nothingness. How is this possible? They are learning. Humanity's strongest weapon has failed, and the scales of victory began to tilt from this moment. The first line of defense was quickly torn open, with the first, second, and third fleet's casualty rates reaching 80. The ELS were breaking through the second line of defense. Humanity's situation was precarious. Faced with the overwhelming advantage of the ELS, many people felt despair. Who can save us? We pray for a miracle. As if responding to the collective prayers, dozens of world-ending beams suddenly shot in from an unknown source, illuminating the entire starry sky and sweeping into the battlefield, effectively isolating the ELS forces from humanity's troops. When everyone regained their composure and looked in shock, they found a massive, empty chasm had appeared in the center of the battlefield. At the same time, a broadcast forcibly interrupted all communication channels. Who was calling the fleet? Chapter 80. Just look cool. As Chong Wei led the light chaser fleet into this world, he took a look around and exclaimed, "What the heck? What was that chaotic cosmic battlefield in the distance? Had a battle already begun? Damn, why is this system so troublesome? Couldn't it have teleported me a bit later, so I could just come over and collect the corpses of the Earth Federation Army and Graham's forces? I had made so many preparations to resolve things before the conflict erupted. Now, it seems I can only intervene in the battlefield quickly. Relay my orders. Immediately head to the battlefield. All warships, prepare your firepower. Target the ELS side at the contact engagement line between the two armies. Clear a path to create an empty chasm and isolate the ELS from humanity's forces. Meanwhile, maintain the fleet shield power. Any small units without shields are prohibited from engaging. Execute all tactical strategies according to the previously established plan. Understood, Commander. Soon, the planet-destroying cannons, Yamato cannons, light spear cannons, laser cannons, and railguns launched a barrage. Countless beams converged, resembling dozens of world-ending light pillars dividing the battlefield. The terrifying power was beyond what humanity's strongest weapons, like the large particle cannon, could compare to. As the dust settled, the surviving human soldiers were left in shock, gazing at the vast chasm that stretched for hundreds of thousands of kilometers in the center of the battlefield. At the same time, they witnessed a massive space structure, thousands of kilometers long, approaching with a group of smaller vessels. Just as they were momentarily stunned, an overly dramatic communication broadcast suddenly interrupted all channels, declaring their arrival as if an angel had descended. Who was calling the fleet? Brigadier General Katie Mana, the federal president, along with countless officials and officers watching the battlefield, involuntarily stood up from their seats. What did they see? A third-party force? Another alien civilization? The surprise and unease about the unknown that emanated from their expressions were impossible to hide. Were they doomed? Just when the ELS issue hadn't been resolved, humanity faced yet another unknown extraterrestrial force? To them, this alien civilization's fleet was undeniably powerful, so powerful that they could only look up at it in despair. Just by observing the enormous size of those warships and their imposing appearance, one could understand the vast gap in capabilities. During the old era on Earth, a famous military expert once said that the effectiveness of military equipment largely depended on its appearance. The better it looked, the better its performance. Over time, this statement has proven to be a profound truth. Therefore, the shortcomings in practical performance of humanoid weapons like mechas were indeed criticized by many countries during their early development. However, once they looked impressive, they could immediately dominate the battlefield, overpowering other weaponry with ease. Generally speaking, the prowess of your mecha could be assessed just by its appearance. So who cares if it's scientifically sound? Looking good is what matters. Perhaps this is a unique rule in the world of mechas. Now looking at it, the largest of the opposing warships reached several thousand kilometers in size. It loomed like a giant beast in the cosmos, exuding an astounding aura and authority. The surface of the warship shimmered with metallic light, each piece of armor radiating powerful energy waves. As for the other giant warships, although they varied in shape, they were still immensely large. At a glance, one could feel the essence of futuristic technology. Their designs were intricate and complex, showcasing unique intelligence and aesthetics. Observed from space, these warships formed a spectacular scene, as if they were messengers from the divine realm. One word, impressive. The sudden appearance of the fleet left humanity shocked and uneasy. Despite realizing that this powerful unknown fleet might pose a significant threat to humanity's future, faced with such formidable power, human technology and combat capabilities seemed trivial. The federal president and officials fixated on these giant warships, then glanced at the overwhelming ELS forces, trying to find a glimmer of hope. But soon, the hope they needed arrived. A full-frequency broadcast suddenly resonated across the frontline battlefield and the earth above. Everyone was stunned by the information. We are the Fleet of Light, and we are officially issuing this announcement to both parties. Our arrival is not malicious. We hope to promote mutual understanding between you through our presence. We have noticed that a war and conflict have erupted between your two civilizations. We are deeply aware of the destruction and harm that war brings, as well as its impact on you. We understand that there are significant differences between you, which may have led to misunderstandings and heightened tensions. However, we firmly believe that through mutual understanding and respect, you can transcend these differences and find common interests and values. We are committed to helping you engage in dialogue and communication to foster understanding and trust between you. We will provide a special device to facilitate your dialogue and negotiation. The Fleet of Light will fully support your efforts, offering assistance and guidance. We are a benevolent and orderly advanced civilization, and we will work with you to promote the establishment of a mechanism for peaceful coexistence, striving for lasting prosperity and progress. The announcement ends here. Please prepare yourselves. The large psionic generator is about to be calibrated. After speaking, Changwei did not pay attention to the reactions of the humans and ELS, but turned to Stedman and asked, "How is it? The data comparison is correct, right?" Stedman replied excitedly, "Sir, you guessed correctly. This GN particle is actually another form of psionics." Chapter 81. ELS and the Mind Network. ELS is a gregarious extraterrestrial life form. Due to the impending end of the stellar lifespan of its original home star system, the star began to expand and occasionally experienced helium flashes. Helium flashes are a very brief, uncontrollable thermonuclear fusion phenomenon during the red giant phase. The high temperatures and light produced caused significant ecological damage to ELS's home planet, making survival impossible. Therefore, before their home planet was consumed by the red giant, ELS began to expand into other star systems in search of a new way of existence and a new hope. They detached a seed individual the size of a moon from their home planet and formed a massive cluster with many smaller individuals. During their wandering in the universe, ELS discovered the existence of humans, an intelligent species. They sought help from humans, mimicking the appearance of mechas and humans merely to engage in dialogue and communication. The act of assimilating and merging with humans was also a method of communication used by ELS with other species for mutual understanding. This approach allows ELS to effectively obtain the molecular bond structure of humans, thereby understanding the basic composition of the human body on a physical and chemical level. By mimicking and reorganizing an appropriate brain structure, they could simulate human thoughts and consciousness. At least, that was ELS's intention. Although ELS possesses thinking capabilities, its ideological consciousness is vastly different from that of humans. ELS is a collective that communicates based on brain quantum waves, making it attracted to the brain quantum waves released by humans and transformers. In the presence of multiple brain quantum wave holders, they tend to prioritize the one with the stronger brain quantum wave. Since ELS also has the habit of absorbing energy and minerals, the groups that land on Earth tend to parasitize facilities such as cars and solar power plants. While they remain life forms, they can be subdivided and cease activity after sustaining significant damage. However, if other ELS approach, they can reactivate. Additionally, ELS possesses the ability to absorb other substances through contact. Once an object comes into contact with ELS, the contacted part begins to erode under a crystalline metallic film, ultimately consuming all targets within, including humans. To prevent this situation, the infected parts must be removed before the erosion spreads. ELS also has the capability to learn from the abilities of others, mimicking not only MS Mecha but also cruisers and their weapons, eventually even replicating particle beams and GN fields, while quickly analyzing them to neutralize human weapon attacks. They are indeed a terrifying race. Currently, known types of ELS are mainly divided into three categories: small, large, and super large. Small ELS are the most numerous and act in groups. They are roughly the size of a mecha's arm but have astonishing speed, even keeping up with a Trans-Am-activated GN compressed particle state. These small ELS can be categorized into three types: conical, blade-shaped, and rectangular. They primarily capture and erode targets by resembling darts hitting a bullseye. Moreover, small ELS are not suited to transform into larger objects, so when mimicking MS Mecha, They usually merge multiple individuals. Large ELS are about the size of a human spacecraft and are fewer in number compared to small ELS, resembling a metal squid with multiple tentacles. Super large ELS, on the other hand, are celestial bodies with a diameter of 3,000 kilometers, nearly the size of the moon. They appear as gigantic spheres intertwined with complex root-like structures, with small parts extending upwards resembling antennas or signal towers. The surrounding ring of dust clouds is actually composed of numerous small ELS groups. The super-large ELS serves as the command center for the ELS race, existing as an independent and unique entity, with its surface covered in crystalline material, effectively defending against attacks from giant particle beam cannons. Furthermore, at the deepest part of its interior lies the core that houses all ELS memory information, which is the current target of action. After quickly reviewing the information regarding ELS in his mind, the protagonist gazed intensely at the battlefield outside the bridge's window, sighing softly. Every intelligent race yearns for survival and continuity, but the vast differences lead to misunderstandings and prejudices between them and other intelligent species. Without a direct means of communication that reaches the soul, I really can't think of any other way to perfectly solve this dilemma. With this thought, Changwei looked again at Stedman on the communication screen and asked, Stedman, how much longer will it take on your end? Is the large psionic generator not finished debugging yet? The ELS has already begun to attack us. Stedman, who was frantically working in front of a machine, responded without turning around, Sir, it will be ready soon. The psionic network covering the entire battlefield requires an enormous amount of psionic energy. So I think we need a little more time. About 15 minutes. It will be quick. 15 minutes? That's acceptable. All right, Stedman, I'll have Swan assist you. The powerful shield of the ship will withstand all attacks, bringing you close to the large ELS, and using the Draken laser drill's energy output of 12 per trillion watts to gently create a large hole. At that time, the psionic network will erupt and be able to influence the core of the super-large ELS through this hole. This will allow it to establish a psionic link with the large psionic generator. Remember, do not connect with it using the brain-machine interface. Our supercomputer will help us process and filter out irrelevant information, getting straight to the essence. Especially, we need to obtain the galactic coordinates of their home planet and express goodwill, informing them that we can save their home planet. Understood, sir. After handling matters on Stedman's side, Changwei straightened his expression and gave orders to the entire army. The entire army will charge into the center of the battlefield, increase shield power, and engage in close combat with the ELS, while covering the Earth Federation forces in their retreat. It turned out that the technological gap could not be compensated for by sheer numbers. No matter how the ELS attacked, they could not break through the shields of the Luminary fleet. They stood like an iron wall between the ELS and the Earth Federation forces, unyielding no matter how hard they were struck. This scene left countless people, including the hurriedly arriving Celestial Organization and Graham with his battle flag squad, utterly dumbfounded. This is too invincible, right? Chapter 82. The meaning of salvation. At this moment, people all over the world, including the Celestial Organization and the Earth Federation forces, were intently watching the extraordinary battle between the two extraterrestrial civilizations before them. While it wasn't particularly brutal, it was enough to be shocking. The Luminary fleet, majestic and solemn, formed an indestructible iron wall, thanks to their powerful shield technology and massive size, standing between the ELS and the Earth Federation forces. This spectacular sight was incredibly overwhelming. The Luminary fleet stood like giants in the universe. No attack from the ELS could inflict substantial damage on them. Whether from energy weapon fire or from missile and particle beam bombardments, all turned to nothing before this indestructible wall. With their overwhelming strength and nearly invincible defense, the Luminary fleet became an insurmountable barrier in the universe. They are guarding the Earth Federation behind them, blocking the ELS from advancing like mad dogs. As stated in their previous announcement, they mean no harm. Their arrival is to promote mutual understanding and trust, facilitate dialogue and communication, achieve lasting prosperity and progress, and protect peace and tranquility between civilizations. With this understanding, when looking at this spectacular scene again, one feels not only awe but also an unshakable spirit and belief. Is this what a benevolent and orderly advanced civilization in the universe looks like? Their invincible stance seems less terrifying, instead providing a deep sense of security. No matter the attacks they face, they remain calm and unwavering, as if symbolizing a will of unity and collective resistance, conveying some kind of strength and thought. A word suddenly emerges in everyone's mind. They are the light chasers. Light chasers are those who bring hope to all who are trapped in despair. This shocking scene will forever be etched in people's memories and history. It is humanity's tribute to wisdom and technology, a celebration of courage and understanding, and a pursuit of this noble belief and thought. If hope had a color, it would surely be blue. In the next moment, a blue light erupted, instantly covering the entire battlefield. The members of the Celestial Organization immediately detected a massive GN particle fluctuation. How is this possible? Besides the green GN particles and red pseudo-GN particles, there are blue GN particles that have never been discovered before. In that instant, the 5 Gundam pilots of the celestial beings, F. Qingying, Lacan Stratos, Alalia Haptism, Soma Puris, and Tyria Urda, all exclaimed in disbelief. The blue GN particles floated and danced like a beautiful painting in the universe, continuously spreading. Sometimes light as sand, sometimes soft as snow. The scene was simply dreamy and elusive. This blue GN particle covering the entire battlefield was actually caused by a large-scale psychic network eruption from a massive psychic generator. Shortly after it was activated, it successfully established a psychic link with the super-large ELS and communicated rapidly through a supercomputer. Moments later, Chang Wei received the news that they had obtained the spatial coordinates of the ELS home planet. He nodded in approval and praised the action team. Well done, Steidman, Swan. The meaning of salvation lies in eliminating fear and prejudice towards the unfamiliar, breaking down barriers through mutual understanding, friendly communication, and mutual learning to broaden horizons. It is also a respect and recognition of different cultures and forms of life. Salvation should not be limited to specific races or species, whether human or alien. Every life has its unique value and meaning. If you need us, the Light Chasers, to save you, then we will not hesitate. There is no need to hesitate. Chang Wei slowly raised his head and issued a command to the Griffin, the research and exploration reconnaissance ship, to immediately head towards the home planet of the ELS and establish friendly communication. Once the matters in this solar system were concluded, the Luminary fleet would change course to rescue their home planet. The captain of the Griffin acknowledged the order, then deactivated stealth mode, revealing the ship from the outskirts of the battlefield. He quickly input the star domain coordinates, and with a whoosh, the ship transformed into a streak of light and vanished. Watching the direction in which the Griffin disappeared, Chang Wei sat in the command chair on the bridge, feeling contemplative and murmuring to himself. Why can't people's thoughts connect with one another? It's because we possess wisdom, which can lead to misunderstandings over trivial matters. And these misunderstandings gradually turn into lies, causing us to treat each other differently, even to the point of being unable to understand one another. However, what we fail to realize is that we can actually achieve mutual understanding. We just need to express it courageously. If you remain silent, others will never know. The essence of the world is actually this simple. Just as Chang Wei finished speaking, the previously aggressive ELS army suddenly came to a halt. Then, they began to gather in swarms towards a single direction, leaving countless observers bewildered. What was happening? What were they trying to do? Had the attack stopped? Billy, look. What is this phenomenon? Huh. This can't be. How is this even possible? Countless people stared in shock at the cosmos, where a gigantic comical face formed by numerous ELS appeared, leaving everyone frozen in place. Chang Wei slammed his fist on the command chair, nearly spitting out a mouthful of blood. Damn it. Did some over-the-top transformer sneak onto the Griffin? Can someone tell me where this comical face came from? Although there was a slight flaw in the situation, the intended message of mutual understanding and peace was still successfully conveyed. It's that simple. Two worlds began to connect and merge with each other. Chapter 83. Heading to rescue the Yeles home planet. All right. The strong, mysterious, and brilliant image that had been established for the Luminary fleet was now completely ruined by this giant comical face. Don't let me find out who the idiot behind this is. They'll definitely regret it. Chang Wei thought angrily, but it wasn't time to rest yet. There were still tasks to complete, such as rescuing the Yeles home planet and helping the Earth Federation establish a mechanism for peaceful coexistence, opening the path to the stars and the sea. After some contemplation, Chang Wei decided to leave the super carrier Endless behind to engage in contact and dialogue with the Earth Federation. The remaining warships would change course to rescue the Yeles home planet, with Captain Thomas of the Endless and the military deterrents of the Spartan warriors. The Human Federation should not dare to act recklessly. Chang Wei called Captain Thomas over and spoke to him in a low voice. Captain Thomas, your responsibility during this contact with the Federation is significant. The main task is to convey our goodwill and outline the goals that our fleet needs to accomplish. Considering that we will need to acquire some scarce supplies from the Federation, I have decided to leave the Ark of Cybertron and the Transformers aboard with you. Captain Thomas looked at Chang Wei with confusion and asked, Sir, what do you mean by scarce supplies? Chang Wei replied, somewhat helplessly, mainly, it's about snacks, beverages, and leisure foods that our fleet either cannot produce or does not prioritize producing. Additionally, we need a substantial amount of reading materials, films, and games to meet the crew's mental needs. If possible, we could also introduce some seeds for grains, fruits, and vegetables from the Federation. These items can be used for our future development in the Emer star system and will help maintain a healthy mindset among the crew. Captain Thomas nodded, realizing that Chang Wei's points were valid. After all, They were an armed rescue fleet, not a governing nation. Naturally, there were many things unrelated to combat, rescue, and research that they could not or would not produce. Without these scarce supplies, there might not be immediate issues under military control. However, over time, some crew members with weaker resolve would likely face various mental challenges. Especially during prolonged periods of isolation in space, the mental state of the crew could deteriorate significantly, potentially impacting combat readiness at critical moments. It's important to remember that before becoming soldiers, they are human, and humans have mental needs. Otherwise, why would so many warships have entertainment rooms? Therefore, Chang Wei planned to procure supplies locally whenever possible during missions. If not, they could trade with some relatively outdated technologies. By the way, those transformers with their quirks could assist in transporting and handling the supplies, but keep a close eye on them. If you're not careful, they might sneak off to an internet cafe to play games or hack into a bank to buy a bunch of video games and magazines. If discovered, it would be a disgrace for our entire fleet. If possible, promise them some of the items they desire to keep them in line. And don't mention that it was my idea. After hearing this, Captain Thomas couldn't help but smile wryly. It seemed the commander was setting him up to take the blame. If a stash of inappropriate materials was found, his reputation as captain could be ruined. What if those Spartan warriors thought he had peculiar preferences? They might close the door to his quarters, lick their lips, and initiate an awkward situation reminiscent of the Renaissance. What a disaster that would be. Just as they were talking, Zhong Kai approached and expressed his desire to stay behind to explore this world and appreciate its culture, while also wanting to check out those so-called Gundams. In response, Chang Wei agreed, but still assigned a task to Zhong Kai. You can go to Earth, but I have a task for you as well. That is to take a micro-spy transformer and infiltrate the Celestial Organization to steal their core manufacturing technology related to the GN solar furnace, as well as the complete technology of the ultimate version of the Quantum 00 double furnace mobile suit. These technologies might involve the use of psychic energy, which could aid in the expansion of our fleet. Can you handle this? Zhong Kai chuckled and looked over at Chang Wei. Oh, are you worried they won't be willing to exchange it? No problem. Leave it to me. It's just a private armed organization. They won't pose much of a challenge under my infiltration. Hearing this, Chang Wei felt a pang of concern, remembering that Zhong Kai's mentor was Tua Su, and quickly added, just infiltrate properly. I'm not asking you to go in recklessly. Although they are just a shady private armed group, they are not bad people, so no killing. Do you understand? Zhong Kai rubbed his nose and smiled. Got it. After all, I'm not a monster. After assigning the tasks, Chang Wei bid farewell to Captain Thomas, Tian, and Zhong Kai. The remaining fleet began inputting the coordinates for the star region, preparing to rescue the ELS home planet. Superluminal jump countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch. Whoosh. The scenery outside the portholes instantly transformed into a dazzling array of lights. Chapter 84, Rescue Plan Whoosh. The silhouettes of massive ships suddenly appeared in the star system where the ELS resided. Chang Wei and the others could observe with the naked eye that the red giant star was incredibly large and hot. According to the calculations from the onboard supercomputer, in about 360 years, this star system would be completely engulfed by the expanding red giant star, after which the core fusion would finish, turning into iron atoms, and eventually collapse into a neutron star with terrifying density. The captain of the Griffin had been waiting for a long time. As soon as Chang Wei and their main fleet appeared, he immediately established communication. Commander, we have made contact with the ELS home planet. However, during the communication process, a transformer voluntarily sacrificed itself and fused with them, becoming a bridge for our communication. Chang Wei understood how things had unfolded. However, given the circumstances, he did not pursue the matter further and instead asked, what is the current situation of the ELS home planet? The captain of the Griffin replied, it's dire. From our communication, we learned that the ELS home planet originally had a special light red solution containing water molecules, active metal molecules, and trace amounts of iron elements, which we named red water. Red water forms the ionic bonds of the ELS and is the source of their life. Without red water, they will not develop new main hive consciousness, and they will gradually lose their activity and ultimately cease to function. In order to ensure the future of their population, they began storing large quantities of red water in seeds thousands of years ago, allowing the seeds to carry countless ELS to escape into outer space. Today, the red water on the ELS home planet is nearly depleted, with only a small amount remaining hidden within the planet, sustaining the ELS in a struggle for survival. The surface of the planet is almost scorched beyond recognition, with temperatures consistently around 1,500 degrees, making survival impossible. Chang Wei carefully reviewed a series of documents sent by the captain of the Griffin on a virtual screen. After contemplating for a moment, he spoke up, ordering the supercomputer system to begin calculations immediately. He inquired whether, if they provided the ELS with a complete set of planetary engine technology, the ELS could successfully execute the Wandering Planet project after mimicking it. The supercomputer completed its calculations in 14 seconds. Conclusion: the ELS mimicking the planetary engine and executing the Wandering Planet project has a success rate of less than 1, requiring more variables to be added. Data analysis 1. The ELS cannot withstand the high temperature of 1,500 degrees on the planet's surface for long. The mimicked planetary engine would be burned to destruction within 14 minutes and 7 seconds. Data analysis 2. The planet has been captured by the gravity of a red giant star, and the thrust of the original version of the planetary engine cannot counteract the red giant's gravity. Modification Proposal 1. Without considering the planet's structure and strength, the power of the planetary engine can be improved to reach the 4th cosmic velocity. Success probability 10. Modification Proposal 2. Use a space-time folding weapon to temporarily eliminate the gravity of the red giant star, and during this time, push the planet out of its gravitational range. Success probability 20. Modification Proposal 3. The Luminary Fleet intervenes to provide shield protection for the planet, blocking high temperatures while adding multiple plants. Success probability 40. Modification Proposal 4. As Chang Wei continued to read, he realized that none of the success rates exceeded 50. This means that while it is quite easy for the Luminary Fleet to destroy a planet, saving one captured by the gravity of a red giant is not so simple. Moreover, the situation on the ELS home planet is very different from that of a wandering Earth. It has been in the red giant phase, orbiting for thousands of years, long past the optimal escape time. It is like an elderly person with one foot in the coffin, nearing the end, with fate already sealed and no way to turn back. In the face of the great forces of the universe, destruction is often easier than construction, and attacking is usually more straightforward than defending. The Luminary Fleet is, strictly speaking, an armed fleet primarily responsible for war rescue missions, rather than a production and construction corps. When faced with cosmic disaster-level natural events, they appear somewhat inadequate. This realization led Chang Wei to suddenly understand that he might need to recruit some specialized auxiliary support and large engineering construction ships in the future. But how to resolve the current situation? Chang Wei found himself deep in thought once again. Perhaps it was due to the long silence? Everyone unconsciously looked at Chang Wei, all waiting for his command. However, at that moment, the captain of the Griffin suddenly sent a message. Commander, after monitoring the red giant star, it will experience a massive helium flash in 3 hours, at which point its size will expand by another 12 times. We may need to avoid the danger. Chang Wei nodded, feeling somewhat dull. Although their fleet had shields, this laborious and thankless task could only be considered a meaningless drain, and staying here was simply not worth it. Just as he was about to give the order to change direction and seek cover for the fleet, the transformer that had been assimilated by the ELS urgently interrupted through the Griffin's communication channel. Commander, the ELS is begging us, asking us to save them, not to leave them behind. Everyone's gaze turned back to Chang Wei, which put immense pressure on him and placed him in a dilemma. A sense of helplessness swept over him, making him feel lost. The Lightbringer hasn't given up on them, but we still need some time to think of a solution. The ELS had a very simple way of thinking. There was no deception, concealment, or lies among their kind, so they believed Chang Wei's promise without a doubt. Then, Chang Wei led the fleet to hide behind a massive gas giant, quietly waiting for the helium flash to arrive. This waiting felt like a long torment. The ELS's home planet was essentially a large hive mind. It was alive, yet now, it seemed to be waiting for death, enduring one trial after another. Throughout thousands of years of torment, it still hadn't given up, not only sowing seeds of hope, but also using its last strength to protect the remaining members of its kind. To be honest, after fully understanding the story and spirit of the ELS home planet, he was deeply moved. Throughout this journey, Chang Wei had grown a lot. He initially only understood the existence of right and wrong in the world. Now, he realized that the world is not just about right and wrong. The key lies in the perspective from which you think and view things, and how to solve various problems from an objective and fair angle. Chang Wei sighed and quietly opened his system panel, looking at the task points he hadn't yet spent. Unconsciously, his gaze drifted to the slot for the mobile base. Chapter 85, Planetary Mobile Fortress, Star of Hope. At this moment, there were only 5 minutes left until the super helium flash erupted from the red giant star. Chang Wei stared blankly at the mobile base slot on the system panel for a long time, and a bold idea gradually emerged in his mind. Therefore, Chang Wei immediately called out to the system in his mind. System, my mobile base slot is still vacant. If I want to recruit the ELS home planet into the mobile base slot, can I save it? The system replied mechanically, yes, but it requires the other party's consent. The recruitment and spatial accommodation of large celestial bodies require a significant amount of energy, so it is not free. The system will charge the host a fee of 10,000 task points as a cost for signing the contract. since the YLS home planet is not a mobile base and has very low combat capabilities. While the host can later modify it, all construction time and material costs will be borne solely by the host. Once chosen, the system will take no responsibility. Are you sure you want to proceed and pay the task points? In other words, once the decision is made to save the YLS home planet, the host will not only lose a precious mobile base slot, but also, for a short period, will be unable to receive effective assistance from it like a true mobile fortress, planetary stronghold, space city, or cosmic ark. How to choose? Should one really give up their life in the face of personal gain or loss? The host gazed thoughtfully, remaining silent for a long time. Slowly, he lifted his head, his eyes growing deeper. He recalled the resilience and courage, faith and determination of the people in the wandering earth. What drives people to keep moving forward and never give up? The host already had an answer in his heart. I choose hope. Without hesitation, he clicked the payment confirmation option on the system interface. In the next moment, an invisible ripple, carrying the system's great power, was transmitted to the YLS home planet. As if an unspoken communication was taking place. 50 seconds remaining until the super helium flash. 20 seconds remaining until the super helium flash. 10 seconds remaining until the super helium flash. Finally, at the last moment, both parties completed some agreement. The YLS home planet, under the eruption of the super helium flash, instantly vanished, as if it had undergone spatial transfer. But the host knew he had succeeded. In his system interface, the mobile base slot was now occupied by the YLS home planet. Then, a system pop-up appeared before him. The host now owns the first planetary mobile fortress. Please name it. The host thought for a moment and felt that since this was his first mobile fortress, it also represented his determination to choose hope over personal gain. Thus, he named it Star of Hope. Ding. The planetary mobile fortress, Star of Hope, has been successfully named. Data list is now unfolding. Name, Star of Hope. Total mass, 16 trillion tons. Diameter, 10,742 kilometers. Planet Gaia, YLS hive mind. Defensive armament, none. Docking port, none. Mobile engine, none. Superweapon, none. Current occupants, 900 million mutated metallic life forms. After reviewing this data, the host did not despise its blank attributes. Instead, he felt a sense of anticipation. Because among the mobile fortresses, planetary strongholds, space cities, cosmic arcs available for recruitment in the system, they were all only the size of satellites. At most a few thousand kilometers, comparable to the moon. The cheapest option, the City of Vultures, has a diameter of only about 45 kilometers. The Death Star is slightly larger, with a diameter of only 120 kilometers. However, the Hope Star boasts a diameter of 10,742 kilometers and a total mass of 16 quadrillion tons. What does this mean? It is just a bit smaller than Earth. This is a true planet. Once transformed into a mobile fortress, equipped with various configurations, its power would be absolutely terrifying, far exceeding most mobile bases listed in the systems. Chang Wei couldn't help but swallow hard, his mind beginning to fantasize. However, he didn't get too carried away. After all, transforming the Hope Star would certainly require significant effort and cost, and he couldn't rush it. So for now, he needed to complete the tasks in this world before returning to the Emer galaxy to develop slowly. Boom. The super helium flash struck the gas giant, instantly creating a massive shockwave. The fleet of light seekers, sheltered behind this cover, could clearly see countless fiery whips flying and whipping from the circular edge, shooting off into the distance. Gazing at this peculiar and beautiful scene, Chang Wei couldn't help but reflect on the dangers and wonders of the universe. Who would have thought that one day he would command a powerful fleet to roam the stars and perform rescue missions? He chuckled to himself, shaking his head in self-deprecation, feeling fortunate that a seemingly talentless person like him could attract the arrival of the system. How lucky could that be? However, it was also possible that there was something about him that attracted the system's binding, perhaps a protagonist's halo? Haha. This super helium flash lasted for more than 2 hours before finally coming to an end. Chang Wei glanced back at the red giant, which had doubled in size. And while feeling emotional, he also realized that this galaxy was doomed and there was nothing left to stay for. Perhaps this is the true essence of life. The cycle of evolution. All troops, input the star domain coordinates. We are heading back to Earth. Suddenly, a faint chuckle echoed in the deep consciousness space of the system. The survival of the fittest, the law of nature. The extinction of a life form means little to the vast natural world, the deep and boundless cosmos. The flowing river of time, or the infinite possibilities of myriad worlds. Dead is just dead. Who can escape death? Animals, trees, humans, stars, good people, bad people, the weak, the strong. All are humble, all are lowly, all are but straw dogs. Once you realize this, you can uncover the truth of everything. You will possess divinity. This divinity, taking a slight step towards the light, is Buddha. Taking half a step towards darkness is the devil. In the end, will you choose a path completely opposite to mine? Hee hee. Chapter 86. The World of Gundam 00 ends. The Celestial Being Organization is a fictional armed group from the anime Mobile Suit Gundam 00. It was secretly established by the genius scientist Elia Skinberg in the early 22nd century. For 200 years, they have been developing technology in secret, supported by a massive economic foundation and intelligence network globally. They are guided by the principle of eradicating all conflicts in the world and begin to engage in military interventions that transcend nations, ethnicities, and religions. From the portrayal in anime, the organization known as Celestial Being appears to be one that has always been hidden in the shadows, observing human development and ready to correct errors with force at any time. Their mission determines that they will never entrust their fate and power to anyone else. The nature of this organization is somewhat similar to that of a holy army. They are not driven by interests, fame, or morality, but rather, like martyrs, they steadfastly uphold their beliefs and consistently implement them. This is also the fundamental reason why they have never cooperated or interacted with the federal government, whether the world is at peace or in dire straits. Because once there is an error in the world, they will deploy their advanced machines to strike. Utilizing their technology that is ahead of its time, they suppress all dissent. Therefore, Chong Wei concludes that even if the fleet of Lightbringers has a tremendous favor to humanity, the Celestial Being Organization will still remain suspicious and vigilant, hidden in the shadows, ready to become the first and last force to correct errors. You want to request or exchange the full set of technology for solar furnaces and quantum mechs. Let us just say you're thinking too much. That's digging at their roots. After receiving the copied information from Zhongkai, Chong Wei couldn't help but pat his shoulder and chuckle. I knew my son Fengxian had the demeanor of a general, right? Didn't he get discovered, did you? Zhongkai looked like he wanted to hit someone and retorted, how could they possibly discover me when they don't even have a counter-stealth device? Plus, with the infiltration of a spy-type transformer, I could move freely in their base. After saying this, Zhongkai's expression started to fall, and he even put his hands on his hips, shaking his head and sighing. Seeing this, Chong Wei curiously asked, what's wrong? You look so down. Didn't you complete the mission perfectly? Zhongkai waved his hand and immediately changed to an indignant expression, saying, the mission was completed, but when I infiltrated their base to gather intelligence, I found that they were all couples, and I was directly fed several rounds of dog food. Especially when I was searching for confidential documents in an unattended database, a couple suddenly barged in. They were all over each other, blocking the exit door, forcing me to awkwardly watch for a long time until they finished and left. Don't you think that's inhumane? Ha ha. Chong Wei almost burst out laughing. And then, what happened next? To help you execute this task, I endured 1,000 points of critical damage. Don't you think I deserve some compensation? Zhongkai glared with wide eyes, looking at Chong Wei with ill intent, expecting an explanation. Chong Wei smiled awkwardly and replied, what do you want? Upon hearing this, Zhongkai immediately switched expressions, smiling brightly, and said, how about you summon another ship, the Hesperian? Chong Wei looked puzzled and replied, what do you mean? Isn't the place we are in right now the Hesperian? Zhongkai noticed that Chong Wei was being so uncooperative, so he leaned closer and whispered discreetly, it's the Huberian from Bug 3, the one with all the skirts. As he spoke, a lewd expression unconsciously appeared on Zhongkai's face, almost drooling. Chong Wei suddenly understood, his eyes widening in realization, exclaiming, what are you trying to get me to do, give you benefits? Is it really that wasteful? If you're that desperate, there are still plenty of female crew members around. With your current status, isn't it easy to find a girlfriend? Zhongkai immediately dropped to his knees, hugging Chong Wei's thigh and pleading, those female soldiers can't compare to the skirts on the Huberian. Please help a brother out. I've been single for so long. All I want is a group of wives from Bug 3. Get lost. You can actually say something so shameful? Have you been hanging around those transformers too long and turned into a weeb? Chong Wei said with disdain, trying to shake off Zhongkai, but instead, Zhongkai held on even tighter, shouting louder, like a pig being slaughtered. Father, I only have this one wish. Please fulfill it. Calling me grandfather won't help. You should really stop thinking about such things. If it's that bad, just have Xiao Ma transfer you a few $1,000 so you can indulge on Earth and relieve that fire. Zhongkai didn't buy it at all, insisting that he could tell the difference between a feast and a full meal. Chong Wei was utterly shocked by his strange reasoning. Tsu, drag him out of here. Bring a few beauties for some serious punishment. Ah, you're serious. No. Watching Zhongkai being dragged away by Su like a little chick, Chong Wei finally let out a sigh of relief. After straightening his disheveled clothes, he discovered that the tugging had ripped a large hole in his pants, exposing part of his skin. He felt utterly speechless. This kid has some serious strength. No wonder he is called a Spectre. Forget it. I'll compensate him when I have more money later. It's not the right time now. The mechanism for peaceful coexistence between humans and the ELS was quickly perfected with the help of the Luminary Fleet. Ultimately, the ELS took the shape of a giant goofy face and, together with the moon, became a satellite of Earth, forming a symbiotic relationship. Whenever the night sky was clear, one could see a goofy face hanging in the sky, offering a strange smile to the people on Earth, creating an eerie and thrilling sensation. Meanwhile, the human federal government expressed deep gratitude to the Luminary Fleet for their assistance and rescue. Hoping to meet with the fleet's highest commander for discussions and looking forward to establishing a long-term, friendly, mutually beneficial, and cooperative relationship. In response, Changwei indicated that while a meeting was possible, cooperation could be set aside, as they would be leaving after procuring the supplies on their list. The Human Federation did not dare to interfere or dig deeper, simply expressing their gratitude once more, emphasizing that humanity would never forget everything the Luminary Fleet had done today. Finally, amidst the waving farewells of countless individuals, the fleet of light-bearers transformed into strands of white light and instantly vanished from this universe. Chapter 87. The Mother Nest and the Commander. Thanks to Dongji, who loves sugar-coated peanuts, for the extra chapter. They are back. The fleet of light-bearers has returned to the Emer star system. As soon as they arrived, Chang Wei began assigning tasks to each ship. The Imperial-class Star Destroyers, Revival-class Star Destroyers, and Defender-class heavy cruisers were dispatched to mine resources. The mechanical arc continued to function as a space factory, providing necessary parts or tools to various mining, factory, and construction areas. The Lunar-class cruisers and Glory Queen-class battleships were told to head to the factories for assembly work, but it was likely they were not keen on that either. So, they were assigned to patrol the star system, checking if there had been any visitors during their absence and investigating potential security risks within the system. The Gorgon-class battlecruisers and the super mothership Endless began construction at the starport, smelters, and various automated factories. The Space Nest, designated as the Mountain Array, was stationed at the transportation hub, serving as a temporary transfer station and resource allocation center, as well as a docking port for various vessels. The Cybertron Ark was tasked with monitoring and exploring the frozen planet of Wong while utilizing the imaging unit for comprehensive terrain scanning and detection of life forms. The requirement was to send me the completed global annotated map within a day. The Griffin was assigned to the planet where biochemical chaos had erupted, tasked with monitoring and exploring while simultaneously beginning the collection and development of vaccines and antidotes for the biochemical virus. I would give them at most a week to get everything done. As for the Hubrian, all crew members get a day off, after which each ship will take turns resting, except for the oil workers. Oil worker? What the heck? What is going on? Am I not human? Well, whatever. I've been working hard for a long time. I'm used to it, especially with the current pressure of producing various parts. Let me sing a prayer, and I'll soon recover my energy and spirit from this heavy workload. Come on, everyone, chant with me. Ring the bell once. Push the lever. Start the pistons and pumps. Ring the bell twice. Press the button, ignite the engine, and inject life. Ring the bell 3 times. Sing in unison. Praise the God of machines. Ring the bell 4 times. All stand up, dance with the machines, and delight the machine spirits. Chang Wei faintly heard a sound from the mechanical arc. You are so beautiful, but he wasn't sure if it was just his imagination. Nevertheless, he decided to dismiss it. He still had important matters to attend to. After assigning tasks to the ships, Chang Wei turned to Matt Honer and instructed, Matt, you should also take a break. I am well aware of the captain's duties on the Hubrian, and I can manage with a few rotating crew members here. Matt Honer smiled and replied, Commander, I don't need a break. As the captain of the Hubrian, I should always be in a working state. Chang Wei glanced at him, nodded in approval, but still insisted. That's an order. The work is never-ending. Today is a holiday for the ship, so it's a good time to relax and not feel special. We are all human, and being human means we all need rest. Only by balancing relaxation and work can we better invest our energy into our daily tasks. Matt felt the strong presence emanating from the officer, hesitated for a moment, then stood at attention and saluted, saying in a firm tone, Yes, Commander. Unknowingly, the officer's aura had grown stronger. After he left, the officer approached the control console and directly input the data of the Hope Star into the onboard computer, calculating the optimal position for such a massive celestial body within the Emer star system, ensuring it wouldn't disrupt the orbits of other celestial bodies and avoid gravitational disturbances. The calculations completed quickly, and the officer opened the system panel, deploying the Hope Star into the calculated orbit. Everything appeared very calm. The chaotic collisions imagined did not occur, and the gravitational balance between the celestial bodies remained intact. Seeing this result, the officer felt a sense of relief. He then looked out the bridge window towards the direction of the Hope Star and silently thought, Gaia of the Hope Star? Or the collective consciousness of the ELS homeworld? Can you hear me? Although he felt as if 1,000 birds were chirping in his ears, he could clearly sense the message the ELS collective consciousness was trying to convey in his mind. I am here, great savior. This feeling of communicating through consciousness was indeed fascinating. In this state, thinking was equivalent to speaking, and speaking was equivalent to thinking. The officer began to understand the transparent communication style of the Trisolarans. If one word could describe this mode of communication, it would be efficient. The officer continued to think. Do you have a name? How should I address you? The collective consciousness replied, Great savior, I do not have a name. If you wish for me to have one, then I shall. The officer nodded and thought, then I will call you Mother Nest from now on. Do you understand your current situation in our relationship? The Mother Nest responded, Great savior, I understand. You are a mysterious existence capable of traversing the universe, an important member of a super civilization, and you possess unimaginable power. It is my honor to follow you and obey your commands. This will be my sole mission and duty from now on. You have saved me from the fate of being consumed by the sun and rescued our kind. I will serve you for a lifetime. The officer was unsure of what the system and the collective consciousness had said, but from the attitude displayed, it was clear that there was great respect towards him. Therefore, it was only right that the Mother Nest, possessing life and consciousness, should be respected as well. My name is Chong Wei, the Supreme Commander of the Light Chaser Fleet. You will be transformed into a solid and powerful mobile fortress for our fleet, providing protection and support. Naturally, you may also call me Commander. Understood. My Commander. Chapter 88. Level 5 Battleship. Spear of Dimension. All matters in the Emer star system were proceeding in an orderly manner. At present, apart from monitoring certain beings and analyzing their character, morals, thoughts, customs, and various risk factors, all other matters have been arranged. At this moment, Chong Wei is sitting on the bridge of the ship. A duty communications officer, taking advantage of Captain Matt Horner's absence, made a cup of coffee for Chong Wei. Through subtle glances and actions, she conveyed a tempting suggestion to him. For instance, she casually mentioned that the water pipe in her dormitory was broken and needed someone to fix it, or suggested going to the restroom together. Chong Wei glanced at her. She had blonde hair and blue eyes, with a well-proportioned figure and dignified appearance, aligning with Western aesthetics, but she wasn't his type. Although she lowered her neckline, intentionally showcasing her impressive figure while pouring coffee, it still failed to pique Chong Wei's interest. Girls often assume that boys are attracted to schoolgirl outfits, maids, lolas, mature women, stockings, and so on. However, what truly captivates boys are the powerful forces of steel, giant mechs, mechanical engineering, passionate ideologies, and noble concepts. Why look at her when he could just visit the armory and watch a group of brothers training? Thanks for the coffee. Now please return to your post, he said. The communications officer didn't dare to linger and left after a brief response. The main reason was that she simply didn't match Chong Wei's Eastern aesthetic. If she had adopted an anime-style cute girl look, perhaps with a pretty dress, he might have been intrigued. Chong Wei closed his eyes, shaking off the unseemly thoughts influenced by Zhong Kai. He then opened the system panel to check the rewards from his last missions. Rescue all members of the Celestial Armed Organization. Completed. Reward, 10,000 mission points. Rescue soldiers of the Earth Federation and prevent their complete annihilation. Completed. Reward, 10,000 mission points. Rescue Graham Ika and his squad, Soul Braves, preventing their total destruction. Completed. Reward, 5,000 mission points. Save human civilization from being completely assimilated by the ELS along with Earth. Completed. Reward, 100,000 mission points. Rescue the ELS homeworld from being devoured by stellar helium flashes. Completed. Reward, 50,000 mission points. Optional task. Help human civilization establish a cosmic broadcast and protect the creation of a 1,000-star city, successfully forming a pan-galactic civilization alliance. Reward, 100 million mission points. Not accepted. Except for the last reckless task that Chong Wei chose not to undertake, all other tasks have been completed, yielding substantial rewards, including the remaining 60. 100 mission points from before and the 10,000 points consumed during the rescue of the ELS homeworld. Chong Wei now has a total of 225,100 mission points. Though it seems like a significant amount, given the ever-increasing costs for system slots and recruitment, this sum might not even suffice for future needs. At present, one should not aim too high. The priority should be to enhance system permissions and transform the Hope Star into a mobile fortress. The transformation of the Hope Star is not particularly difficult, but it requires significant financial, time, and energy investments. The main challenge lies in upgrading system permissions, and the only way to achieve this is by increasing the fleet size. Currently, Chong Wei has 12 warships and has attained level 3 system permissions, which allows him to recruit level 5 civilization warships. However, to purchase the 13th warship slot, he needs to spend 24,000 mission points. This mechanism is akin to the challenges faced in cultivation stories. The higher one aims, the more difficult it becomes to grow stronger. It is evident that to meet the requirements for recruiting level 6 civilization warships, a considerably larger fleet is necessary. The journey to seek truth is long and arduous. But Chang Wei can only persist unyieldingly, pouring all his efforts into the pursuit and exploration. Perhaps one day, he will uncover the truth of the myriad realms and the secrets of the system. After some thought, Chang Wei decided to purchase the 13th warship slot. However, he had little concept of the level 5 civilization warships and was unsure how to proceed with the recruitment. Additionally, recruiting warships was not like recruiting for a mobile base, where there was a recruitment list for comparison and understanding. Therefore, Chang Wei simply opted for a random recruitment to test the waters. System. Begin random recruitment of level 5 civilization warships. The advantage of random recruitment is that it does not require additional mission points, but the downside is quite evident. It is essentially a gamble. If he ends up with a disappointing outcome, not only would the warship slot be wasted, but the lack of capability would also be disheartening for Chang Wei. He only hoped not to be too disappointed. After all, it was a level 5 civilization warship, which should have some exceptional qualities, right? The system's success notification soon came through. Ding. Successfully recruited a level 5 civilization warship, Spear of Dimension. Current remaining mission points, 201. 100. Chang Wei's eyes widened, and he immediately opened the new warship's data to take a look. Name, Spear of Dimension. Origin, created by a certain imaginative author. Warship size, length 72 meters, width 12 meters. Appearance, the overall color scheme is blue and black, featuring a spiral-shaped warship with force field floating armor. Equipped technologies, 1. Space folding technology. This technology allows the internal space of the Spear of Dimension to appear much larger than expected, capable of accommodating a giant metropolis with a population of millions. 2. Space distortion technology. This technology enables the Spear of Dimension to form a spatial distortion barrier in three-dimensional space, causing enemy attacks to deviate from their trajectory. 3. Hyperspace jump technology. This technology allows the Spear of Dimension to change its dimensional attributes and ascend into hyperspace, enabling instantaneous jumps to all directions in the universe. The time required for the jump is related to the information and mass it carries. The more information and mass, the slower the rate of dimensional transition during the jump, and vice versa. 4. Spatial constraining force field. This technology can segregate low-dimensional spaces from higher-dimensional perspectives and confine or block them. The quantum subdimensional cannon is one such weapon. Targets struck by this weapon will be sliced as if by a high-dimensional blade, ignoring defenses and directly disassembling various parts of the target. The smallest parts may even be reduced to two-dimensional or one-dimensional states. The antimatter annihilation cannon, equipped with 10 units, utilizes antimatter stored in encapsulated force fields. If a target lacks shield protection, the contact between matter and antimatter will immediately cause annihilation, resulting in immense energy release. Crew. Onboard AI, Osiris, Captain. A multifunctional universal robot. Shadowstalker, with 1,000 units. After carefully reading the introduction, Chang Wei finally understands the difference between 5th-level civilization warships and 4th-level civilization warships. Chapter 89. Technology of 5th-level civilization. After thoroughly reviewing the 5th-level civilization warship, Spear of Dimensions, Chang Wei realizes the gap between the 5th-level and 4th-level civilization warships. 4th-level civilization warships, lacking mastery of spatial dimension technology, fall short in terms of travel distance, speed, energy capacity, and weaponry compared to 5th-level civilization warships. To address the issues of travel distance and energy capacity, the 4th-level civilization warships inevitably exhibit signs of massive size, particularly in settings like Warhammer 40K, to carry more weapons, ammunition, energy, and troop transport. Their warships are often constructed to be exceptionally large. The mechanical arc and mountain formation in Chang Wei's possession already exhibit such immense volumes that they generate slight celestial gravitational effects. This design cannot be deemed incorrect. It merely reflects their technology's inability to transcend their imagination and understanding, along with factors of worldview and aesthetics. This principle is akin to the historical technological innovations experienced by human civilization. Initially, computers and internal combustion engines were incredibly large, necessitating massive workshops and vehicles for their use. However, with continuous technological breakthroughs, miniaturization becomes an inevitable trend, allowing for greater space, resource savings, more convenient experiences, and enhanced advantages. In other words, if the technology aboard this 5th-level civilization warship can be fully comprehended, could the remaining ships of the Light Chaser fleet also be upgraded from 4th-level civilization warships to 5th-level civilization warships through modifications? The idea is promising, but Chang Wei faces two major challenges. First, Fully grasping the technology of the Spear of Dimensions will not be easy, even with the assistance of the onboard AI Osiris. It will likely require considerable time. Second, since the Spear of Dimensions is a warship he recruited, studying certain parts will inevitably require disassembly. What if he cannot reassemble it afterward? Wouldn't he be left powerless? He knows the system won't let him easily find bugs. Forget it. There are still 100 task points left, so let's buy a few more battleship slots. Anyway, the preparation time for the current missions is 72 hours. And I can make a temporary choice later on whether to recruit some specialized support or large-scale construction ships. With a flurry of actions, I bought 3 more battleship slots, deducting a total of 84,000 task points, leaving the system with 117,100 task points. After sorting all this out, I felt a pang of regret. However, I still retain nearly 100,000 task points for emergencies. Because even though rescue missions have preparation time, unexpected situations might arise during the rescue operation. For instance, in the world of a certain game, I suffered an unexpected setback and had to make an emergency landing on a perilous planet. If I had enough task points at that moment, I could recruit another battleship at any time. At the very least, recruiting a hero unit for protection would be more than sufficient, right? After finishing my coffee, I opened my palm, and a toy-like dimension spear appeared, not larger than a palm. This is the magic of spatial dimension technology, which can change its size. If needed, the dimension spear can shrink to enter the microscopic world, allowing me to explore the wonders of cell nuclei, tardigrades, quarks, electrons, and more. It's almost like a mythical power. If the technology controlled by a level 5 civilization is this powerful, what about level 6 or 7 civilizations? Wouldn't they be akin to true deities, capable of controlling everything? I dared not think further, as my knowledge and understanding had not yet reached that height. Taking a deep breath, I instructed the ship's AI, Osiris, aboard the Dimension Spear. Intelligent Captain, Osiris, please deploy a Shadow Stalker robot to the Huberian. At your command, Commander. In the next moment, a quantum module was printed out before me like a projection. It was a humanoid robot, about 1.8 meters tall, with a smooth, mirror-like surface and no seams or openings. Just standing there, it felt like a cold, emotionless killing machine. According to the intelligent Captain Osiris, the Shadow Stalker robot employs advanced technology from a level 5 civilization and is a versatile robot. It can be used for security and combat, as well as production and construction. Its body is composed of atom nuclei compressed in spatial dimensions, able to defend against and reflect attacks from any energy weapon, with a hardness reaching 1,000,000 times that of Edmund alloy. Its only weakness is that it cannot carry personal shields and is vulnerable to antimatter weapon attacks. It sounded impressive, but I still only trusted my own eyes. Therefore, I planned to throw this Shadow Stalker robot into space, intending to use the laser array of the Huberian to give it a test, to see the actual effect. Soon, the results left me in shock. It was just like the sound of artillery echoing through the air, with various laser beams striking it, but all were reflected by its powerful, smooth body, withstanding the onslaught. Witnessing this scene were not only Chang Wei but also countless crew members of the ship who could not comprehend what they were seeing. Unlike the shocked expressions of the others, which were as if they couldn't hold back their emotions, Chang Wei was so excited he could hardly contain himself. This shadow robot was truly formidable. Unfortunately, it couldn't defend against antimatter weapons. Otherwise, it would be a great asset in combat. One wondered if those warriors and their comrades had any way to deal with it. Perhaps they could invite them over for a sparring session? As if they could sense Chang Wei's thoughts, many warriors felt a sudden tension, as if something ominous was about to happen. Chapter 90. The Ice Age of the Canine People. In an endless expanse of frozen snowfields, there existed a massive canyon. Inside this vast canyon, there was surprisingly a town. However, the residents of this town were not humans, but a group of canine beings dressed in heavy clothing. This enormous canyon not only shielded them from most of the biting cold winds, but also contained astonishing reserves of coal resources. The canine beings relied on the energy tower in the center of the canyon town for survival, which was the only source of heat in this frozen land. The energy tower required a substantial amount of coal to operate, providing warmth to a circular area around it. Through continuous research and exploration by the engineers among them, they had upgraded the energy tower to increase its heat output, expand its heating area, and reduce coal consumption. When extremely harsh cold waves struck, they could overload the energy tower to forcibly increase its heat. However, this would put the tower under pressure, and when the pressure gauge reached 100, there would be a risk of explosion. In summary, to survive in this frozen apocalypse, the canine beings had to unite, collaborate, gather various resources, hunt, build factories, maintain order, establish laws, and instill hope. This was also the main reason why the canyon town had become one of the few places where life could still thrive on the planet. Yet, even so, their situation remained dire. Whenever the coldest winter arrived, the canyon city would fall into the most difficult days. If the winter lasted too long, it could even lead to a paralysis of food supply and resource extraction. As a result, hunger and disease claimed many lives each year. In the past, they could receive decent medical care, and even in death, they would be laid to rest in cemeteries. But as the years went by, the struggles of the canine beings became increasingly arduous. The supplies of medicine and useful items that the exploration teams could bring back were dwindling. Some teams even set out and never returned. Everyone knew what had likely happened to them, but grief and sorrow had long since numbed their hearts. Every day, just being alive to see the sun rise again, without the fear of freezing to death in bed, is their greatest desire. The brilliance of civilization has reached its darkest moment, and it could be extinguished at any time. Kevin is a member of the exploration team from the canyon town. The weather balloon has reported that tomorrow will be a sunny day. Therefore, their team will take advantage of this period without snow and wind to quickly go out and search for useful items to bring back. At this moment, Kevin is holding his son, reading a story from a book, lying in bed to lull him to sleep. In this era, knowledge and books are extremely precious and rare. The vast majority of canines would rather tear books apart to use as firewood than take a moment to read them. As for them, books are not as important as survival. But Kevin is different. He vaguely remembers that when he was a child, the world was not like this. Back then, there were seasons, the sounds of birds, the fragrance of flowers, and people could freely enjoy the warm sunshine outdoors, rather than facing an average outdoor temperature of minus 1,030 degrees. What was once a vibrant earth has turned into a desolate, white wasteland. Now 45 years old. Although he cannot recall much from his childhood, he still remembers that it seemed to be a war that led to the world becoming what it is today. In his quest for the truth, he carefully treasures any books he finds during his explorations, considering them invaluable evidence of their civilization's once glorious past, a long-buried history. Currently, Kevin is holding a historical document, but he does not understand its specific meaning and only considers it a bedtime story for his son. Some of the complex phrases are beyond his comprehension, so he embellishes and makes up parts according to his understanding, as long as the story flows well. Once upon a time, a high priest known as a scientist discovered another world beyond theirs. To be the first to reach that mysterious realm, countries engaged in a competition called space exploration. One day, the scientist established communication with the mysterious world and exchanged cultural, customary, and physiological information. They aspired to become true friends. After more than 100 years of development, the two friends who had been communicating across the void finally met in a place higher than the sky and broader than the earth. It was thought to be a beautiful encounter and a new beginning. However, the wolves and lions behind these two friends began to reveal their ambitions, madness, and evil sides. They sought to enslave and occupy each other's worlds. Thus, a divine war broke out. Countless suns soared into the sky, and metal arcs roamed the stars. That was the judgment day for the two worlds and the beginning of all disasters. If this continues, the time left for the two worlds might be running out. Kevin only regarded it as a myth and didn't think deeply about it. Moreover, the latter half of the book did not reveal the conclusion of the story. After he finished the last word, he turned his head and noticed that his son had already fallen asleep. He then closed the book, gently kissed his son's face, and quietly turned off the light. The next morning, the expedition team began to gather for departure. There was no time to bid farewell to their sleeping family members because they had to fight for survival. However, old John from the expedition had frostbite on his foot from his last return, and it hadn't healed yet. To fill his absence, a newcomer had joined the team. The young man appeared to be quite naive, excited and happy to be leaving the canyon town with the expedition team for the first time. Seeing this, Kevin couldn't help but shake his head. He needed to step in and give the newcomer a reality check. Otherwise, the young man's arrogance and underestimation could cost him his life. Haha, it seems a dog has mixed in with our wolf pack this time. Not everyone is qualified to call themselves a wolf. Only those battle-hardened, brave, and strong can truly claim that title. For a dog to mix in with a pack of wolves is a very insulting provocation among the adult canines. If they hear such words and don't bravely rush into fight, then that canine is likely timid and unworthy of joining the expedition team. The first rule of the expedition team initiation: have a deep respect for the ice and snow. Clearly, the young newcomer eventually passed the test. Kevin glanced at him and said nothing. Instead, he shouted, "Let us go." Chapter 91. The Truth of the World? As the head of this expedition team, Kevin was leading everyone through the harsh, icy terrain. When they passed a series of human-shaped ice sculptures, the newly joined young man was clearly stunned. Staring at the sculptures for a long time, Kevin approached him and quietly reminded, "Don't look, keep moving." The young man couldn't help but ask, "Why not bury them? Why leave them here unattended?" Kevin looked at him as if he were a fool and casually replied, "First, We are in the outside world now and must always maintain our strength to avoid unnecessary exhaustion. Otherwise, when a crisis strikes, you might not have the energy to escape or endure the cold wave. Second, it serves as a warning to every expedition team that passes by, reminding us to have respect for the frozen outside world. As he spoke, Kevin continued to glance at the young man, his tone softening. Kid, here is a piece of advice. In the outside world, showing off bravado doesn't work. Only by uniting and cooperating can we overcome challenges and deliver the supplies back to the town. The outside world is still unfamiliar to you, and you have much to learn. Observe more, speak less, follow along, and obey orders. People will gradually teach you what the survival skills of the outside world are, as well as various survival techniques. The young man's eyes sparkled, and he finally nodded earnestly before continuing to follow the group. They crossed an endless snowfield and arrived at a city long buried under ice, where they continuously searched for usable supplies and secured them to the sleds they brought. Kevin, as the leader, stood on a high point, surveying the surroundings to keep watch over those transporting and scouting for supplies. In this harsh, icy apocalypse, what was terrifying was not just hunger, disease, and cold, but also a group of marauders who had lost their morals and reason. These guys were known as snow bandits. To put it simply, snow bandits are a group of opportunistic robbers. They have their temporary bases and will ambush and attack any expedition team they encounter, seizing their supplies. They even skin members of the expedition teams to make warm clothing. The flesh is not wasted either. It is roasted into preserved jerky. If captured by the snow bandits, you might not be killed immediately. However, that would lead to a more cruel and terrifying fate, as you would be treated as fresh ingredients, eaten bit by bit. They might start by cutting off your tail and ears to roast today, then chop off your arms or thighs tomorrow and the day after. They would directly carve out chunks of flesh from your body, eating it raw and dripping with blood. If you have a strong will to survive and don't faint from the pain, you might even be unfortunate enough to witness how your own body parts are consumed piece by piece. There's a popular joke among expedition teams. You wake up groggily by a warm campfire, only to see the snow bandits sitting around, chewing heartily while smiling at you. They say, I have good news and bad news. The bad news is, you've been caught by us. The good news is, you taste pretty good. After hearing this, you realize you are tied up on the ground, missing limbs, and you immediately scream in terror. The snow bandits, meanwhile, enjoy their meal while bursting into laughter. Just thinking about that scene is utterly despairing. Therefore, as the leader, Kevin would never allow such a thing to happen. Just when he was fully focused and alert to his surroundings, his ears suddenly twitched, catching a sound that was coming closer. He immediately waved his hands from his elevated position, signaling the team below to take cover. Everyone instantly dropped what they were doing and quickly hid in the shadows, afraid to make even the slightest noise. Kevin, from his vantage point, looked in the direction of the sound and noticed it was strange. He had never heard anything like it before. Boom, boom, boom. Kevin crouched low, narrowing his eyes. He saw a long steel structure racing along a grid-like road. Its powerful form tore through the cold wind, shattered the glaciers, and crushed the snowfield like a fearsome beast. What could that be? Kevin had never seen a train before. Although he had previously noticed those grid-like roads, he hadn't paid much attention to them and didn't know their specific purpose. He thought those grid-like roads were like the streetlights and fire hydrants frozen in ice, having long lost their original function. Today, he unexpectedly saw a steel structure he had never encountered before, speeding across the snowy expanse. How could this be possible? How was it moving? Was there a dog inside? Driven by curiosity, Kevin stood up, wanting to get a better look at the rushing steel figure, as if the truth of the world was right before his eyes. Oh no, it was moving away, getting farther and farther. Kevin felt that if he missed this opportunity, he might never find the answer in his lifetime. In the next moment, he immediately blew his whistle, calling his team out from the shadows. I've discovered something incredible. I must chase after it. Jack, you will lead the expedition team now. If I'm not back in 3 days, don't wait for me. You know the procedures. Remember to cover our tracks on the way back, so that no one finds our home. Kevin, where are you going? Come back. A golden retriever, nearly 50 years old and already showing signs of age, shouted in the direction Kevin was leaving. But the only response he got was, I'm going to seek the truth of the world. Kevin quickly lightened his load, packed his supplies, and strapped on his skis. With a powerful push, he raced toward the direction of the snowy train. Fortunately, the path of the snowy train was not a straight line, but winding, going around many hills and slopes. This gave Kevin a chance to take shortcuts and get closer. Otherwise, at his speed, he would never catch up to the train. However, this reckless behavior also brought him considerable risk. In the vast, icy world, he had no idea what lay hidden beneath the snow ahead. Suddenly, a loud crash. His skis hit a rock buried under the white snow, and his body, along with the inertia, was thrown into the air. As he landed, he quickly rolled down a steep slope toward a cliff. In this critical moment, Kevin could only try to maintain his balance, desperately grabbing for anything that could stop him as he fell down the steep incline. Countless dry branches snapped under his grasp, but they still couldn't slow his momentum. Just when he was about to fall off the cliff, he managed to grab onto a lifesaver, a rough stone. At that moment, his body was half hanging between the cliff walls, with the tracks of the snowy train below him. Watching the train pass so close beneath him without noticing his presence, Kevin, bruised and in despair, couldn't help but tear up. His hopes were shattered, and he knew that once his strength gave out, he would fall off the cliff. Everything has come to an end. Watching the distant snow country train, Kevin couldn't help but murmur, "What is the truth of the world? Why has our world turned into this apocalyptic scene? I really want to know." Kevin closed his eyes, ready to let go and end his life. Just at that moment, his arm was suddenly yanked back by someone. He opened his eyes in shock to see a humanoid figure completely wrapped in metal armor. And behind him, a gigantic steel bird appeared in the sky. What is this? The scene before him completely overturned Kevin's understanding. The sergeant, clad in the Mark V battle armor of the Thunder God's hammer, pulled Kevin up from the cliff and then reported to his commander. "We have discovered a survivor from the Canine Planet, with some bruises and fractures that require medical attention. Additionally, the surveillance mission on the Snow Country train will continue." Chapter 92. Starting humanitarian rescue for Canine Planet survivors. Chong Wei had a dream where he woke up to find two beautiful girls snuggled up on either side of him. Sleeping soundly, he secretly lifted the blanket and found it was completely empty. The feeling was incredibly thrilling. Just as he was about to engage in a delightful morning exercise in his dream, he suddenly woke up. Damn it! Why did I wake up at such a crucial moment? Is the next part paid content? This dream is just like some novel authors who know how to create cliffhangers. Chong Wei slowly got out of bed and headed to the bathroom to freshen up. He had completely adapted to life on the ship, under the influence of artificial microgravity. It wasn't much different from being on the ground, except that the living environment had changed from houses to cabins. Looking in the mirror, Chong Wei noticed that his mechanical right eye was fading a bit, so he took it out and used a bionic spray placed in the bathroom to clean it. After taking a breath and wiping it clean, he put it back into his eye socket. Every time he took it out for cleaning, the mechanical eye would recalibrate the visual nerve data. Up, down, left, right. The eye orb spun 360 degrees, focusing in and out, which was quite interesting. This mechanical right eye not only provided Chong Wei with visual images, but also, like the bird's eye in 40K, could quickly search for and lock onto targets. It also had some recording, collecting, and analysis functions. This made it quite helpful for Chong Wei's regular reading and studying. After adjusting his appearance, Chong Wei put on a smart military uniform, donned his military cap, and walked out of the bedroom. He didn't head straight to the bridge, but instead went to the armory, as reports indicated that the first mobile task force, consisting of 20 Titan-class vanguards, had been formed. Under the leadership of Cuban Brisk, rigorous training is currently underway. Therefore, Chong Wei wants to personally go and take a look. He also wants to ask Swan if he has obtained any blueprints from friends again. While passing through the corridor near the dining hall, he happens to encounter the hardcore troops coming towards him after finishing breakfast. Upon seeing Chong Wei, the troops immediately stand at attention and salute under the leadership of Major Ryusuke. Chong Wei smiles and greets them, but then scans the area and notices that Rue Gu is not present. Curiously, he asks, "Where's Rue Gu? Why haven't I seen him again?" Ryusuke, with an unnatural expression, replies, "General, that kid took advantage of yesterday's holiday to cause trouble with Chief John, wearing his powered armor, and ended up being sent to the medical bay again." Chong Wei is momentarily taken aback and then awkwardly laughs, saying, "Rue Gu really hasn't he changed? He still loves to stir up trouble. We need to keep a closer eye on him." Hearing this, Ryusuke's expression immediately darkens as he internally scolds Rue Gu profusely. "General, please rest assured. This matter has already been handled by our respective officers, so there's no need for you to worry. Chief John has been reassigned to execute tasks on another planet. As for that kid Rue Gu, once he recovers, I'll send him to the mechanical arc to work alongside those mechanics for a few months." Chong Wei nods in acknowledgement, tacitly agreeing with this resolution. He can't help but reflect on how easily main characters can clash with each other. Could this be considered a fateful collision of protagonist auras? It's hard to say. However, Rue Gu is quite bold, daring to provoke a chief and getting knocked into the medical bay twice. Who knows if there will be a third time? Hopefully, working on the mechanic ship for a few months will teach him a lesson. Chong Wei doesn't dwell on it. Such brawls are bound to occur within the entire fleet. With so many mid-level officers around, it's not something he needs to worry about. As he leisurely makes his way to the armory, he immediately spots Swan waving at him. Chong Wei walks over, stands with his hands behind his back, and teasingly asks, "So what have you got this time? Any new blueprints?" Swan points at Chong Wei and bursts into hearty laughter. "Haha, you guessed it right. I got the production blueprints for the Minotaur-class battlecruiser from an old friend. Now you can start production." Chang Wei feels a surge of joy inside, but maintains a nonchalant demeanor. We Haven T even finished building the starport and the accompanying fusion core facilities yet. Manufacturing the battlecruiser is not urgent for now. Oh, by the way, how is the research on the Gundam 00 solar furnace going with Stedman? Swan strokes his beard and replies with a smile. That kind of solar furnace needs to be produced in a high-gravity environment. Stedman is currently researching the relevant gravity field equipment, and it shouldn't take long before we can mass-produce it. However, this GN particle, similar to psychic energy, may cause irreversible changes to our genes, particularly in an environment with high concentrations of GN particles for an extended period. It may awaken us to become what is referred to as the changers, or those with psychic abilities. Isn't that a good thing? Chang Wei inquired. Swan shook his head and continued. I can't explain the specifics clearly. Perhaps the scientist Stedman might understand it better? Essentially, by this method, once one becomes a psychic, their personality tends to become extremely aloof, and their emotions can become very sensitive. If one cannot resist temptation, they may easily fall into a dark path. There are ways to address this, such as using bonds of kinship, friendship, and love to constantly remind each other, strengthen self-restraint, and warn oneself against losing humanity. Among other things, Chang Wei pondered for a moment, then responded to Swan with his perspective on the matter. I believe the key issue may not be the GN particles themselves, but rather how they alter our genes. Once a person awakens as a changer, there is a process of significant adaptation that their bodily functions, including brain quantum waves, must undergo. It's akin to a growing child who, during their physical development, and while possessing strong imitation and learning abilities, does not receive proper guidance. They can easily learn the wrong things, and may even develop nihilistic emotions. Therefore, it mainly comes down to the issue of proper guidance. During the time when one is fully stabilizing and adapting, relevant psychological counseling must be conducted. Isn't it often said that individuals who suddenly gain power are prone to losing themselves? Perhaps there is some correlation there? After listening, Swan fell into contemplation. After a long while, he nodded in agreement. That makes sense. I'll make a note of it, and later communicate with Stedman. Finally, after observing the training of the Titan mech squad, Chang Wei encouraged them with a few words before returning to the bridge of the Huberian. As soon as he returned, Matt Horner saluted Chang Wei and handed him a map and a report, which contained detailed information about the Wong planet and the Wong people. After reviewing it, Chang Wei gained a general understanding of the current situation and character of the Wong people, and after some consideration, he issued a command. The Luminant Fleet will begin humanitarian assistance to the Wong people. Chapter 93. The Bringer of Hope. The information report on the Wong planet and the Wong people has been collected in great detail. Approximately 42 years ago, a brutal war broke out concerning two Level 1 civilizations. According to the decrypted original documents, the Wolf King faction among the Wong people detected a conspiracy from the Miao people and, in order to protect their civilization, decisively launched an attack on the Miao people's planet. However, the Tiger Lion faction of the Miao people coincidentally did the same, launching an attack on the Wong people's planet. In the initial stages of the war, both sides relied on nuclear weapons for long-range strikes. However, the results were not ideal, as both possessed powerful planetary near-Earth orbital defense systems. The sheer number of artificial satellites formed a space-based weapon array that caused 99 of the nuclear weapons to fail. The remaining one can only fuel the flames of hatred and war between both sides. In a bid to completely eliminate each other, the cat people and dog people engaged in a monumental battle that lasted for a year. Various spacecraft from their civilizations were nearly exhausted as a result. What followed was countless remnants of their creations floating in the near-Earth orbit of both planets. In the final showdown, the dog people destroyed their last spacecraft and unleashed a powerful biochemical virus on Cat Planet. This virus would devastate the ecological environment of Cat Planet, causing severe pollution in the land, sky, and oceans, and triggering a global biochemical frenzy that birthed numerous bloodthirsty, mutated monsters and zombies. Meanwhile, the cat people launched their last high-yield hydrogen bomb, melting 28 trillion tons of glaciers in the Arctic Circle of Dog Planet. Consequently, a global deluge occurred, followed by a significant drop in temperatures, leading the world into an ice age. In this apocalyptic ice age, the dog people were not exactly sent back to primitive times, but they were nearly returned to a feudal era. Their ability to produce goods was minimal, relying mostly on the technology and artifacts left behind by their ancestors for survival. The continuity of civilization had been severely disrupted, with most only capable of performing basic maintenance on machinery and boilers. Additionally, the population had plummeted by 99, or even more compared to before the disaster. Currently, there are 47 detectable gathering points worldwide, with the remaining population totaling around 500,000. A truly tragic figure. Almost daily, dog people succumb to freezing, starvation, and disease. However, investigations revealed that despite the harsh conditions, there was a high-tech steel train embarking on an endless global journey through the frozen world. This train had been in operation for 42 years without any stops. Through tracking and scanning, it was determined that this train utilized advanced technology from a Level 1 civilization. It possessed a complete self-circulating system and employed the planet's gravity along with ingenious design to create a pseudo-perpetual motion mechanism that served as the power source for the train's movement. The entire train consisted of 1,001 carriages, housing at least 100,000 survivors. Each carriage had different functions, primarily as follows. 1. The last carriage for the lower-class residents. 2. A prison carriage for holding criminals. 3. A military barrack carriage for stationed soldiers. 4. A production carriage for labor and manufacturing. 5. A transitional carriage that served as a class boundary. 6. A water source carriage capable of collecting melted snow for drinking water. 7. A greenhouse carriage for cultivating crops and numerous plants. 8. An aquarium carriage with an independent marine ecosystem, featuring a high-end sushi restaurant that operates only from June to August, ensuring freshness by serving live catches. 9. A refrigerated carriage for storing a large quantity of meat products. 10. A school carriage for educating students and spreading indoctrination. 11. A comprehensive carriage serving functions like dentistry, tailoring, and retail. 12. A second type of comprehensive carriage with features such as a high-end restaurant and beauty salon. Next comes the swimming pool carriage, sauna carriage, entertainment carriage, smoking carriage, elite private carriage, and engine head. It can be said that the entire train has formed a complete ecological chain, industrial structure, and class society. Chang Wei exclaimed, "Wow. This is simply an ecological base in a frozen apocalypse, a globally mobile one at that. The beings on this train might just be those social elites who survived in the past. Only they have the wealth, manpower, and technology to create such luxurious things. However, their situation is not good now. After 42 years of oppression, it has finally erupted today. At this moment, the 80,000 lower-class beings on the train are rising in rebellion. They start from the last carriage, armed with almost no weapons, relying solely on their flesh and blood and fervent spirit, charging against the soldiers armed with swords, clubs, and firearms with depleted ammunition. Blood flows like a river as chaos ensues in every carriage. The scene is utterly brutal. According to supercomputers, if the riot continues, there will be risks of overturning and derailment on the train. At that time, the 100,000 lives that have lived in the greenhouse for 42 years will not withstand the cold environment outside and will all freeze to death. In this urgent situation, Chang Wei does not wish to judge the good and evil of the matter. Thus, he issued an order to begin humanitarian rescue for beings worldwide. Immediately, massive interstellar warships and countless rescue ships began to penetrate the atmosphere. They appeared above the gathering places like divine saviors. Countless beings working below looked up in terror, gazing at the colossal objects beyond their imagination and understanding, unsure of what to do. But soon, figures began to descend from the sky. They were the Brotherhood of 50. Star Army, UNSC Marines, and Stormtroopers. As the beings watched them approach, their eyes were filled with fear and vigilance. However, they would soon realize that this group of armored beings was here to bring them hope. Chapter 94. Resettlement of the beings. The universe casts endless malice upon us, and we respond with unwavering determination. It's the alien. Eliminate them all. A political officer of the Star Army, upon seeing the beings, instinctively reached for his weapon to fire. However, the next moment, feeling the collective gaze of the surrounding troops upon him, he awkwardly chuckled and said, "Sorry, it's a professional habit." Chang Wei understood that in the world of Warhammer 40K, the Imperial Army consists of human supremacists loyal to the Emperor. Due to their dark history of being slaughtered, ruled, and enslaved by foreign races, they have developed a strong aversion and hatred towards other races. Regardless of what race you are, if you are not human, you should be killed. This is the fundamental reason they have launched extermination orders on various planets. However, the current situation is no longer the universe of Warhammer 40K. Since being recruited into the Lightbearers fleet, they have been allowed to retain their original customs and traditions, but in certain aspects, they must also adapt to and abide by the beliefs and duties of the Lightbearers. This time, instead of directly deploying the Space Marines, they sent down the Astral Troops first as a tentative correction. Otherwise, it would not be humanitarian aid, but a massacre. The Astral Troops are essentially a group of mortal auxiliary soldiers, specifically tasked with supporting those semi-divine beings with multiple hearts and lungs. They have also been indoctrinated with Imperial ideology since childhood, revering human supremacy. By allowing the Astral Troops to execute rescue operations alongside other units, it is also a means to gradually assimilate them, changing their mindset to understand that not all aliens deserve to die. The initial results are promising, and the commander nodded in approval, continuing to observe. The steps of the rescue operation are simple. 1. Prioritize saving those canines who are injured, sick, hungry, and in danger. 2. Airdrop supply stations in 47 gathering locations around the globe to provide warmth, food, and medical care, while helping maintain public order. 3. Activate a propaganda machine to clearly inform them of the intentions of the rescuers and the true meaning represented by the light-bearers, thus avoiding misunderstandings, suspicion, and conflict. 4. Establish communication with the leaders of their major gathering places to negotiate further rescue and relocation plans. 5. Identify and apprehend those cannibalistic factions among them and hand them over to their own people for execution. Due to the urgency of the rescue orders, the planning was not overly detailed, but it was sufficient for the time being. Next, they needed to consider how to settle this group of canines. Matt, what are your thoughts on settling this group of canines? Matt Horner turned around and said seriously to the commander, Sir, as a once advanced civilization, the potential of these canines is not low. If we treat them as a protected species and allow them to develop and reproduce on their own in the Emer system, one day they will inevitably come into conflict with us over resources and living space. Therefore, my suggestion is to integrate them, allowing them to become part of us or serve as auxiliary troops in the Lightbearers fleet. Matt Horner's argument is not without merit. The commander understands the principle that kindness can breed resentment. Even if the canines currently remember the Lightbearers' benevolence, if they are left to develop and reproduce unchecked, once the new generation takes over and the old generation passes away, that gratitude will eventually fade. In case another ambitious individual recklessly initiates something like a rebellion, it's possible that the situation could become dire for them. After careful consideration, the commander accepted the suggestion. All right, let us proceed as you said, and start integrating the survivors. I'll draft a detailed plan for the various units to execute. The main focus will be on settling these survivors from the apocalypse, improving their quality of life and education. We will introduce relevant laws and policies to ensure that the new generation learns our language and writing, with a strong emphasis on ideological education. At the same time, we will begin to collect and organize their historical information, helping them understand the truth and remember their history. It's essential to cultivate a correct set of values and a grateful heart. Among these, fostering a sense of identity and belonging among the survivors is of utmost importance. We certainly can't raise a group of backstabbers, can we? The commander's words resonated deeply with his advisor. Having lived through the oppressive times, he knew that oppression, exploitation, and concealment would only lead to uprisings and resistance. Therefore, he was quite averse to any policies resembling servitude. If the commander chose to treat the survivors as slaves, turning them into mere tools for the fleet, the advisor would undoubtedly be very disappointed. By the way, we could also establish 2 technical and military academies. As long as they meet the graduation standards, they will be treated equally and allowed to join the fleet. Furthermore, once the construction of the Starship factory is completed, the next step for our fleet could be the large-scale production of advanced battleships. At that time, there will certainly be a high demand for technical personnel and officers. It's important to note that such critical positions cannot be filled by clones. The advisor looked at the commander with growing enthusiasm. Standing straight, he nodded sincerely and said, An excellent decision, Commander. The matter regarding the survivors seemed to have reached a conclusion, and everything should be implemented within a week at the latest. As for that train from the snowy country, forcibly stopping it while it was traveling at high speed could pose certain risks. For safety reasons, they decided to utilize the gravitational pull of an Imperial-class Star Destroyer to draw it up into the sky. The scene resembled a train from a fictional universe, with all its carriages being lifted into the air, as if it were a noodle being drawn into the mouth of a massive starship. Faced with the encirclement of stormtroopers and AT-ST walkers, the chaos among the train's occupants ceased, and they looked around in fear and confusion, unsure of what to do. Only one individual, an elderly figure wearing monocles and a black top hat, resembling a British gentleman, slowly descended from the train, leaning on a golden-tipped cane. Like an excited child, he bowed to the stormtroopers and expressed his hopes of meeting the leaders of an alien civilization. Chang Wei showed no interest in this matter and instructed the captain of the Imperial-class starship to handle it on their own. His gaze then shifted to another planet, lush and green, inhabited by a race of feline beings. Chapter 95. The predicament of the feline beings in a dilapidated and weathered city. A shocking scene unfolded before Chang Wei's eyes. Countless feline zombies wandered the streets, their bodies tattered, clothes in rags, and faces twisted and decayed. Their eyes were hollow and terrifying, devoid of life, as if they had lost the tether of their souls. The city's buildings had been abandoned for years, with walls mottled and leaning, windows shattered, and the streets littered with torn debris and remnants. Thick dark clouds hung in the gloomy sky, casting a layer of darkness over the city, adding a sense of heaviness and desolation to the entire scene. The zombies roamed aimlessly through the city, occasionally emitting low, Hoarse groans. This sound sent chills down the spine, as if they were craving fresh flesh and blood. Their postures were contorted, and their steps unsteady, as if they were constantly pursuing an unattainable goal. Occasionally, brief conflicts broke out among them, fighting over the remnants of rotting flesh on the ground, resembling mud. This extremely repulsive sight further highlighted the desolation and horror of this world. To be honest, when Chang Wei first witnessed such a chilling scene, he felt a sense of psychological discomfort. It could only be said to surpass the portrayals in works like The Walking Dead, Resident Evil, and Night of the Living Dead. Whether brave warriors or ordinary people with strong hearts, anyone arriving in this post-apocalyptic world would feel a sense of dread. The existence of the zombies seemed to mock life itself, while the ruins of the city witnessed a once thriving past. Moreover, the world was filled with